Good evening. We'll reconvene to open session at 6:03. So I'm going to go ahead and read this public comment announcement. So individuals may address the board on agenda items on both the closed session and the regular session agenda during public participation and or at the time they are under consideration by completing the form provided on the table at the entrance and submitting the form to Anna, our administrative assistant. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual or 20 minutes per topic, and the speakers will be chosen in random order. Each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium. Public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on an agenda at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or in writing at a future time. The meeting is videoed and broadcast on the Fort Bragg Unified School District YouTube channel. So please know that when you speak. Okay, we do have a closed session item to report. So the board's consideration of the resolution to release intern, is placed on the closed. Okay, sorry. The following motion was made by Diana Paoli and seconded by Scott Schneider to adopt a resolution to release intern and authorize the district superintendent to notify the intern that she may be released at the end of, or will be released at the end of the school year. The motion was passed unanimously by a roll call vote. Okay. So we'll pass that down to Anna. Okay. And now, are there any public participation on non-agenda items? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to 3.4, the approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be moved or pulled or?
The only thing is I don't know if, is the T-Mobile gentleman?
I would guess not.
The what?
I just part of the T-Mobile.
Oh.
In 8.11, we have a T-Mobile presentation. We actually met with him yesterday as an administrative staff to ask questions. And I apologize, Mr. T-Mobile man, if you're out there. We had some pretty tough questions, and it didn't sound fiscally prudent for us as a district. So I would imagine that he's probably not going to be here. I'll spend some time at that point to tell you what we learned. Okay. And get the board's direction. But just be prepared. I don't believe he's going to be here. So.
Okay.
So maybe we can move it to under your superintendent report?
We can put it, if
Yeah.
that's okay with you, we can put that with the superintendent report. And if by some act of God he shows up,
we'll give him a spot.
we'll give him, okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Well, or should we leave it there and then just, so that this,
That's true. That's fine.
it's not gonna be any faster or, shorter if we move where the items talked about, so. Okay. All right, anything else? There was a change in the other okay. All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
My second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, so trustee Paoli will lead us in the patriotic exercise.
So there's so much to be thankful in May. I think there's mental health awareness this month. There's teacher appreciation. There's staff appreciation. And I was happy to attend the choral concert, so I have a recording of the students. There were 8th graders that were singing a song in Latin, which I thought was pretty impressive. So I will, bear with me, find the recording. So I'm hoping this will work.
Is it working?
I sing the song in alto, soprano, harmony.
Do you need her to point it to the?
And I hope you will be enjoying our salsa you sing in your head. I hope you are going to have a good night.
3 minutes, folks. It was actually a wonderful concert.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to acknowledgements.
Acknowledgements. Mendocino Lodge, number 179, made a donation of $351 to be used for supplies for grades 1 through 5. Thank you, Mendocino Lodge. The Redwood Region Logging Conference, prize money of $100 for Dana Gray, Room 60, Special Education, students who took 3rd place in the mural contest. Good job, Room 60. Eric Thompson, DBD Thompson Construction, donated $100 to be used for middle school softball. Jessica Ellers donated $100 to be used for middle school soccer. And now, for our big acknowledgement, Judah Millen is a senior at Fort Bragg High School. And Judah has been our school board rep. Is this your 3rd year?
It is indeed.
So Judah has been our school board rep for 3 years. And just on a very personal note, I've had the lovely pleasure of watching Judah grow up. He and my son are in the same graduating class, and it's been pretty exciting watching Judah blossom over the last 18 years. He is a pretty incredible young man doing great things. May I announce where you're going to school? Judah was accepted to Yale. He will be attending Yale. He's not sure he's going to go in the
I'm going to be the class of 2024, so I'm taking a gap.
He's taking a gap year, and he's going to do some pretty great things. So I'm excited to hear about his gap year. Can I talk about? Okay. He's considering going to Ecuador or Colombia.
Bolivia and Peru.
Okay, so I was not even close. So he's considering going to South America and doing some work on an exchange program, and then returning to work on a presidential election with the candidate. So that's pretty exciting. So if you know Judah, everybody could just nod your head. Of course you're going to work on a presidential election. It's perfect for you. So Judah, I know the board, all of us want to thank you for your hard work these last 3 years, and we thank you for your patience and your input and your reporting. You took us to a place where it was no longer just a high school report. You gave reports on all the schools and really unified that position much more than it's ever been. So thank you for that. We kind of all stumbled together 3 years ago when we started, and it's been such a joy to watch you blossom and grow into this position, and who you are as a young man makes us all really proud. So thank you. We wanted to thank you. And
we would like to present you with a gift. And I think you might have been the longest standing school board rep. I think they're usually 1, maybe 2 years, but again, thank you. And I just want to, I know we've said it before, but my experience as the ASB advisor and then also being in this position, your report and what you did with that is really leaves your legacy here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
this is your early friend from our family. And I
Thank you,
hug
Ms.
you,
Walker.
but you're
I'm sick, so that's not a great.
I'll hug you next week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
And then we have one more.
And then one more. So last month, when we did all the retirements, we left off Kathleen Murray, and not on purpose. Kathleen was the first person on her intent to return that said, last year, I am retiring. And so when we were putting this together, Kathleen was inadvertently left off. And I just want to say to Kathleen Murray, who has been with us for 20 years in the district, thank you for your years of service. She was actually our inaugural Westport school teacher. That's how she started with us. And so she's been all over and done many things, and we really appreciate her wisdom and what she's brought to the district. So congratulations, Kathleen, on your retirement. Know that all of us are completely jealous. So congratulations to her.
All right. And communication, I think, I went back and looked, I think everything we had started before, that I had gotten, had started before and been reported on at the last meeting. Did anyone else receive any individual?
Well, we all received the Students Awards Night invitation for May 15th.
Okay. Anybody else get in? Okay.
Same thing.
All right, yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to public participation on agenda items, and again, you can speak now, or you can speak at the time we're discussing the item. Okay. All right, so we'll start with reports. Again, we are trying to limit these to 5 minutes per person, just to try to keep our meetings short,
Efficient.
but, you know, we've talked many times that it's hard when there's good stuff about kids happening to not to cut you off. So if we're not really good about it, we're trying. Okay, so the first one is the board reports, things that we've been doing. It seems like we were just here, but does anyone, Mary, you want to start this time?
Oh, gosh. I could have done a few things. One thing I did was I attended the MECA meetings, 2 of them. That's the Mendocino Education Coordinating Council Association. And that group is planning a job fair at Mendocino College Coast Campus tomorrow. And I think there's over 22 employers coming now and bringing a busload of high school kids from Mendocino and Fort Bragg High School. So, and of course adults are included in that. So that's exciting. I volunteered at the plant sale at Redwood. I had never been, and I ended up spending $20 after I was done. And it's amazing what's going on there. It was fun. And then also did coffee with the principal at Redwood. I forget what Friday that was, but since the last meeting.
Okay. We'll swing back that way.
Sure. So I attended high school track meet, which was a lot of fun. Attended the Dana Gray Career Day, which was good. Thanks for helping me cook. Got to hang out there for a good part of the day. Good to see the kids so engaged. So that was fun. And I just want to take a moment and appreciate all the teachers and staff of the district for this time of year. Hopefully you feel appreciated year-round, but especially now. Your hard work, dedication is very much appreciated and is not taken for granted. It shows. It even shows with the kids in this room and what Jude has done. And I met Jude on his 2nd birthday, and it's been great to kind of watch him thrive and grow, and super excited for what is in store for you. So congrats and thank you.
I attended Earth Day. It was a great day. A little windy. A few of the canopies got taken out, but that was the worst thing that happened. Great turnout, lots of booths, very good. And I attended a talent show at Three Rivers Charter School last Friday, and they seem to be having a great time. So as the lead enforcement agency for that school, we're keeping an eye on them, and it seems like there's a lot of happy kids there. So that's all I got. I yield my time to the next person.
So at probably no particular order, I attended the class of 2023 dessert auction, and that was fun to pop in there. I wasn't able to go to the gang forum, but they do have it on the city website, so you can stream. And Superintendent Becky Walker and Connie Belli, what they called her Belly, which I thought was cute. She appreciated that. And Bruce Triplett really did a nice job. You did a fabulous job of communicating to families and what to look out. You could really do a tech what to look for with your kids' phones. But they also talked about how the community really has to band together and call the tip lines, and they gave the tip numbers. You can go to the police and get those anonymous, or just the city or the sheriff tip line, because that one piece, even though it might be a very obscure detail, could be what they need to track down folks that are not behaving in town.
And Bruce Triplett was there as well.
Yes, Bruce Triplett. So anyway, if you weren't able to attend, it's worth your time to watch. I also, of course, went to the choral concert, popped in at the Dana Gray Career Day, which was really exciting to see how happy the kids were. And I saw them on the blacktop, so a little bit different, but it sounded like they were really engaged in the classroom. I went to the high school site council. And then just informative, at the middle school, I have to give them kudos. The office staff has a new running data on the counter. They have the children that are arriving late in a week's time, the children that are leaving early during the day, and then their attendance. And I think this week or this last week was 94%, which is pretty good. And then you just kind of do the math, and so it doesn't sound like a lot, but about 6 to 10 either leaving early or arriving late, which that accounts to, folks getting distracted or taking away from their day. So that's kind of a neat data that they've been doing, that hopefully it's getting people aware of tracking their attendance. They also have, I guess the sixth graders get to select their courses, and those are due tomorrow. So if you have any sixth graders that haven't turned in their yellow form, do that. And then I spent a little bit of time, CSBA, who are members on the California School Board Association, has a lot of information, and they're banding with the the Teachers Association, and going to the Sacramento Steps on May 22nd. So if you have any folks that are going to be in the Sacramento area, their big push is the full and fair funding. We have a huge economy here in California, but we're not funding our education. And so their big push is to literally get people to sign up on here, and that being stated and trying to band together with the Teachers Association to try to get the government to, fund education. So that's their big push. They also are offering an online summer learning for board members, and I did, there's only 2. They said, do it this summer, and each of them are 20 minutes. So they're very, you can slip that into your day very easily, but they had a summer learning module, and it was informative. And if you get a chance, look up summer learning on YouTube, and it's a great visual. It's only 2 minutes, and it's loss of learning during summer, and it gives a visual of these 2 little students going along, one from low income and one from median income, and that they never will match up. They're especially during the summer, they will proceed in session together and grow as just as much, but they're always lacking behind because of that summer loss of learning. So that they were just kind of saying, work with your community to see how you can fit that in, because some kids aren't going to the library, some kids don't get to go on field trips, they don't get to go out of town, and all of that equates to loss of learning and having to, especially in math as well. So it was good stuff, and I'm sure you can all stream that. And I think that's what I've been doing. So thank you.
And they are doing that attendance information at Dana Gray. I saw it's all posted on the front door. So I think that's great. I really have just dealt with class of 2023. We have the dessert auction, and we unfortunately, their meeting for the class was the same night as the gang forum, so I will be streaming that as well. So, okay. All right. Anything come up? Okay. All right. So, Judah, it's your unfortunately last report.
This is his last report?
Yeah. Well, there's another meeting.
I
Well,
say
they're
we
special,
bring him
so-
back. Just kidding, Judy. It's okay.
Well, we thought maybe this might be your last meeting, so.
I'm okay with that.
Because the next one's after graduation, so
Yeah.
That's okay, Judy.
you can wave to us on the,
Exactly. I'll watch.
Just
Yeah.
hit. Give them a hit.
I'll make a comment or something.
there you go.
You can help Mitchell in the back.
Okay. So there are a bunch of things coming up because it's the end of the year, stuff's getting busy. So at the high school, awards night is on the 15th.
Judy, your mic.
Oh.
Thank you.
So starting off at the high school, we have a bunch of things coming up here. Awards night is on the 15th from 7 to 8. Then scholarship night is on the 23rd from 7 to 8. Senior boards are on the 29th from 1:30 to 3:30. Senior banquet is on the 30th from 6 to 8. Senior trip is on the 31st, and that's an all-day thing. And then graduation is on June 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. So quite a few things coming up here, especially for us seniors. It's a pretty busy time. Moving on to the middle school, there's a band concert on May 14th. There is a middle school dance on May 17th, and then there is an open house and book fair on May 23rd. at Dana Gray. There is CASP testing this week and next week. Fire Prevention Day is on Friday, May 24th at Timberwolf Stadium. And so that's when the various fire agencies and I think even some law enforcement agencies come down and meet with the kids, and then even sometimes helicopters show up. So that's always, I volunteered at that a couple years, and it's definitely a cool event. And then finally, Dana Gray Open House is on May 28th at 5:30. And then finally at Redwood, their open house is on Wednesday, May 22nd, and that also happens to be the school's, or they're celebrating the school's 65th anniversary. So there will be a history room with many former teachers and staff giving presentations about the history of Redwood Elementary.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm sure that if anyone's interested, they could go.
And that's May 22nd.
May 22nd, correct. I don't have the time for that, I'm sorry. And then additionally, the color run is coming up. And then there is orientation for new and returning parents on May 20th. And that is my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judah. And we, just to piggyback on Judah's report, we have lots of all the promotion activities and graduation activities. So we have alternative education graduation on June 5th, which is a Wednesday, middle school promotion on June 6th, and then the high school graduation on June 7th. So that'll be a busy week for everybody. And Judah, I know you're feeling under the weather, so if you need to tap out.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
So then it goes to me. Superintendent report. So a couple of things before I move on to this. I just wanted to do a shout out. Kathy Babcock, thank you so much for the career day at Dana Gray. I got to come in and do some presentations, and there was a woman who joined myself and Jacqueline Kaito. She was an author. She brought in her books. We were sitting there in awe. She's like, I wrote this book, we're making a movie out of this book. And we're sitting there like so not worthy, and the kids were enthralled, and it was very exciting. And I was so impressed with the breadth and depth of what you brought in, and someone actually came to me and said, how much is Kathy getting paid to do this? I laughed and said, this is part, she's volunteering all this. So the time that you put into that, it was a successful event. You had great things in the parking lot. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. So thank you for giving up your time to do that. I'm incredibly impressed. It was superb. So thank you for that. The job fair is happening tomorrow. That is for anybody who in our community who could potentially be thinking about a job. Fort Bragg Unified will be there with our open positions, 2 to 6. So anyone out in the community, it's at the Mendo College Coast Center, which is over on Del Mar Drive. So just a shout out for that. And just to give everybody the latest, there will be 27 employers present. It's up to 27. So it's a wonderful opportunity. If that's something that you need, like high school students or even anybody who's looking for summer work, it would be a great spot. Next, we received confirmation today that the high school has been WASC accredited. They received a 6-year accreditation with a 1-day mid-cycle review, which is fantastic. Congratulations, Fort Bragg High School. You did a great job. It's very exciting. It's the highest one they can get for their size. Bigger districts with full-time WASC people can get a 6-year accreditation with no revisit. The revisit's always nice. So the level of revisit can be a 1-day revisit, a 2-day revisit, a 3-day revisit. They got a 1-day revisit, which indicates that you did a good job. We'll come back in, check in, and then we'll take off again. So good job, Fort Bragg High School.
Yeah.
And now for the exciting news. So this PowerPoint that you see up here entitled FBUSD Funding and Attendance, I'm going to be giving this presentation, I'm hoping to Seroptimus within the next couple of months, and I just gave this presentation at Rotary. Trustee Mattson was able to coordinate scheduling me to be on that schedule, so thank you for that. I wanted to show this to the board so that you saw what I'm putting out to the community and what our service groups are seeing. So, and I'll do the fast version. Oh, I should turn it on. That would be helpful, which I did. Okay. It's in Google. No, but it's in Google Slides, isn't it? Is there any way to put it in PowerPoint? Okay, then we'll just leave it. That's fine. Okay, so the first thing I explained to folks in the presentation is how we are funded. There are 3 types of funding, and if you were to see all of my little things. So we are an average daily attendance district. I explained the difference between ADA, basic aid, our supplemental and concentration funds. We are an ADA district. When Trustee Paoli talks about the fair funding formula, that's really about trying to equalize the budget in our state. So I went through this in a much more in-depth pace, but we are based on our attendance. So that's why when you see at the middle school, we've had 94% attendance this week, we've had this many tardies, it's because everything that we do here at Fort Bragg Unified is based on who is in their seat and who has shown up that day. Let's go to the next slide. And I think we might actually have to put this in PowerPoint. So if you go to the next slide, Anna. Okay. I think what's going to happen is that my animations are going to be in the way.
That was something I asked the presenters. I didn't want to talk about the career fair, but since you brought it up, one of the things we asked the presenters to talk about is attendance and teamwork and critical thinking skills at that age group, so that they see why school K-12 is so important. Tried to push it there too.
Okay. So let's do this. If it's okay with the board, we're going to move this into PowerPoint and give Anna a few minutes to do that. And in the meantime, I know that we have the DLAC committee here. Let's get them, if it's okay with you, if we can go to DLAC so we can get them rolling. Tina and Luce, are you good with that?
We are.
Okay.
Thank you. So, good evening. We represent the District English Learner Advisory Committee.
So Tina, I'm going to ask you to talk into the mic so that our viewers at home can hear you.
Okay, so I'm Tina Krenov, and this is Luz Oxday, and we represent the District English Learner Advisory Committee. And every year, we meet several times a year, and we discuss what parents of English learners in our district would like to see as continued or improvements in terms of services for our English learners. And so we write a letter, and Luz is going to read the letter in Spanish, and then I will translate her letter.
Dear school board members, in accordance with state guidelines, the function of District English Learners Advisory Committee include advising the school board regarding the needs of English learners ELS.
Luz, ¿no quieres leerlo en español?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I won't translate.
We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you to share our recommendation for the 2019-2020 school year. Let us first of all thank you for your continued commitment to the English learners of our district. We are especially pleased with the following: English classes for adults. The district's growing effort to provide EL parents with information opportunities such as Literacy Night at Redwood Elementary, 5th grade students field trip to Ukiah campus and Mendocino College with the object to encourage interest in college and career opportunities. A special thanks to the Dana Gray ELAC members who work diligent to make this happen. Time provided for the Dana Gray Art Program. Based on the comments we have received throughout the school year in presentation, parents surveys, class visits, parents training, and ELAC, DLAC meetings, we would like to present to the school board the following recommendations. Continue to provide an opportunity for 5th grade students to realize the field trip to the Ukiah campus and Mendocino College with the object to encourage interest in college and career opportunities. Collaborate with Mendocino College to provide information for Spanish-speaking parents around various aspects of college application and preparation. Establish a computer parent station at each site so that parents who do not have computer access at home can still look up students' information such as attendance and grades. We would also like to see that these stations come with explicit written directions how to use or have bilingual office staff available to assist. Seek ways to assist parents and English learners find tutoring, help in English and math. Encourage the Fort Bragg Unified District Migrant Education Representative to communicate regularly with parents of students in the Migrant Education Program. Conduct meeting for parents and English learners at the beginning of the school year to provide information regarding district programs and services for English learners. At parent-teacher conference with EL parents only at the beginning of the school year in order to establish relationship with this set of parents who have unique needs and concerns, and also explain what support that teachers provide his or her English learners. We realize this may be a constructual issue. We ask that the district pursue if it's possible. Create an EL plan together with EL parents representatives to ensure that the districts continue to provide progress forward for the English learners. Provide child care and translation as needed at ELAC and DLAC meetings. Ensure that site principals communicate this list of needs with the staff at their sites. On a side note, we also thank Latino Coalition for providing volunteer tutors for English learners students. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share our recommendation with you at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Luz. That was well done. Thank
Stay
you.
here. On a personal note, and I wrote it down here, so, but on behalf of the school district and certainly on behalf of Joanne Farrell and myself, I would like to thank Luz for all these years of passionate and dedicated service to the school district and the English learners in our district. Some of you may not know this, but Luz has for many years attended every ELAC meeting and every DLAC meeting in the district. The information and insights that she has shared with us are invaluable, and our program would not be the fine program that it is without her significant contributions. Joanne and I have appreciated working with Luz for many years, and I look forward to working with her for many years to come. Thank you, Luz, with much love from me and Joanne. So we have a special certificate for you. Thank you so much. We love you.
Thank you, Luz. Thank you, Tina.
Any questions about our letter with
I
recommendations?
thought that all sites did have the computers.
So
Is that not-
what they're specifically asking for is like a parent
Desk.
station.
Okay, yeah.
And I thought it was a great idea.
It is, it's a great idea.
To have a parent station at every site. And right now, we have a bilingual secretary at every site, minus the alternative ed. But at our four big sites, we have someone in the office who can speak Spanish. So I thought it was a great idea to just have something designated, stationed. And with our Chromebooks, it can really just be under the desk, and when we need to, we pop it open and good to go. I also liked the comment about having directions in Spanish or having someone available to help. So there were lots of great recommendations from the committee, and what I appreciated was that they really thought about, it was incredibly thoughtful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to go back, or?
Would you rather get through the reports and do mine last? What would you like to do? It's your call.
I'm fine with going back to you. It's ready.
Okay. I try, Mark, I try. Okay, so how public schools are funded through ADA, which is what we are, average daily attendance, supplemental and concentration funds, just so people know, that's really based on our unduplicated count. When I say unduplicated count, it's the number of students who are SED or EL or foster homeless, and if you're all three, you still only count as one. So unduplicated, so that kids aren't counted more than once. And then basic aid. Basic aid districts rely on their property taxes. So they receive more money from property taxes than they would from the state allocation, so they receive the property taxes. The difficulty with that, well, the wonderful thing about that is that school districts who are basic aid districts receive more money than if they were ADA districts from the state standards. Does that make sense? Fort Bragg Unified is an ADA district, so we don't rely on our property taxes, okay? So moving on, so our attendance rates, I wanted to show people where we are and how it looks. I got all of this from DataQuest. You can go online and look at it yourself and see where we're at.
Becky,
Yes? Yes?
it might be worthy to explain to people why we are an ADA district.
Oh,
instead of
okay.
basic aid.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Mattson. So we are an ADA district because our property taxes do not exceed what the state would give us per pupil. And some people say, well, what does that mean? So we have lots of properties in Fort Bragg and in our district area that are passed down from generation to generation. That's Prop 13. So what Prop 13 has said is that when you pass it down, that property tax rate maintains at the level with a certain percentage of inflation every year, but the certain percentage does not match the levels that properties increase. Okay, so for instance, if a house sells on Whipple Street for $400,000, which isn't unheard of, okay, that house sells, their property taxes are probably going to be right around $4,000 to $5,000 a year. If the house on Whipple Street gets passed down from grandma to son to next son, okay, the property taxes may only be $400 a year. So we have lots of places in Fort Bragg that have that type of an exchange. People are paying property taxes based on Prop 13 funding, which is great for them because who wants to pay $5,000 when you can pay $500? But that conglomeration of properties in Fort Bragg inhibits us from being a basic aid district. So our property taxes are less than what we would get from the state. Okay? For us in Fort Bragg Unified, between supplemental concentration and the state apportionment, we get about $10,300 per pupil. If you look at districts who are basic aid districts, you will see they get much more than that. And I think the last time we looked, I think like St. Helena gets $26,000 per pupil from their basic aid on average. It's a big difference. So the reason we are pushing for the fair funding formula, see that postcard again, is because those of us who are in basic aid districts, we are crying out to please level the playing field. Our state, unfortunately, by way of funding, the funding mechanism, the districts who are in impoverished areas stay impoverished. Our districts in more affluent areas remain affluent. And it's no one's fault other than that's the way the system is. So no one got together and say, let's, stick it to the little guy. It's just that's the way the system is. So when we look at the fair funding formula, we're going to ask everybody to get out there and advocate for it because it will make a difference. So that is why we are an average daily attendance district. Thank you, Trustee Mattson, for that. So knowing this, our attendance is huge. For instance, in the year 14-15, we had an enrollment of 1,764 students. Okay, we had an unduplicated count of 71%. 71% of our students were either socioeconomically disadvantaged, which means a family of four is making around $40,000 a year. Okay, or they were foster homeless youth, or they were English language learners. 71% of our district. Our ADA that year, that means the average daily attendance, the average of number of students in seats on any given day was almost 100, less than our enrollment. And in fact, if you want to get tricky with it, it was 92 less. Okay, that's a big jump to say that we have 92 students on average absent every day. So we look at that because if we could just get back 50 of those students, multiply that by 10,300, that's over $500,000. So that's why our attendance is so huge to us, because if we can get 5 more students back every year, it's $50,000. Okay, in 15-16 we started. We were excited because we had this boost in enrollment. Everybody was doing a happy dance. We went from 1764 to 1815 to 1,815. Okay, that right there should have been a boost of 50 ADA, shouldn't it? We should have had a $500,000 boost to our budget. Well, what happened to our ADA? It went up by 26. Okay, so we have to look at this because we need to figure out what's going on with our attendance. Our unduplicated went down a little. Okay, was that because we didn't have people fill out the right forms? And Pilar will talk about that a little bit today if we go to community eligibility provision. In 16-17, the ADA, the enrollment dropped again, but look what happened to attendance. Okay, our ADA actually improved because what happened was That was the year that we all got together and we were talking budget and doom and gloom and what are we going to do? And the Board of Trustees said, we're doing this backwards. And I think it was you, Trustee Mattson, who made the comment, we need to look at improving attendance. So we started on this push of looking at attendance. So even though our enrollment dropped by 25 and 15, by 40 students, our ADA actually increased a little bit. In 17-18, that's last year, our attendance, our enrollment went up again. Look what happened to our ADA. Our enrollment actually increased.
By quite a bit.
Okay?
Yeah.
By quite a few. I mean, it increased by 31 students. Our enrollment increased by 31 students and our average daily attendance decreased by 8. Okay, so we have to look at this. It's something we have to pay attention to. So far this year, as of February, our enrollment declined, and I will tell you at the start of the year that Wendy and I both had a knot in the pit of our stomach. When you start the year off and you realize on day one that you are 40 students below what you started with the previous year, that's $400,000. Okay, we were incredibly nervous. Now, Wendy and I are not agreeing with this number. As of, see, look at this. I got this number right out of DataQuest from our LCFF funding page. And it said, as of February, that our ADA was at 1,699. Wendy just got a report through the county that our ADA is at 1,680. So that's a bit of a loss for us.
Those are P1 numbers. Now we have P2.
So if we would have maintained that, that would have been great. But as of right now, it's at 1680, which means we're going to take another decline. When our ADA declines, it goes by P2. P2, P1, people are saying, what is that? P1 is in October. That means it's a kind of like the grading period. Okay? It's the first moment in time when the state looks at us and says, okay, what are you doing? P2 comes in March, and we get those numbers in April. And so looking at P2, where were we, is less than that. These were our October numbers. So we were incredibly hopeful. So for right now, that's decreased. Our SED rates, so our socioeconomically disadvantaged rates. I want to bring this up because this is something that we keep pushing because we're not sure what's happening. If you look at Redwood versus the high school, I go back to my own family status. When my husband and I were first married and we had little kids, we were making less money than we are now. Okay? And I get that as your kids get older and you get wiser as adults, you move up and you advance. In our community, are our families, by the time their kids are high school age, do we have this miraculous change in our socioeconomic status? I will tell you, I don't know. But the reason this concerns me is what we said at the last board meeting, which was, if the high school is truly at 70% like the rest of the district, that has an implication of $300,000 to the district. So we have to get the word out that if folks are truly eligible, we need to let them know that it helps the district. And so those numbers concern me. And so when we look at it over the course of time, those numbers for the remainder of the district have somewhat been stable, with the exception that the high school and middle school have been low. Last year, the middle school did a much better job of reporting. The high school did a little bit better job of reporting, but where the high school is at in our SED numbers versus Redwood, it doesn't make sense to me. So it's something that we need to pay attention to. Now, today, 18-19, these are the numbers that we are operating with. And the reason why it's important is because our supplemental and concentration dollars are 100% tied to our unduplicated count, which is our SED number is the largest number. So we look at that to kind of lead us in the direction of what is the unduplicated count. So attendance facts. I gave the community members the attendance facts that we passed out to all of our parents at the beginning of the year. There was a factual sheet. So this is the same thing that I showed at the board meeting, and we talked to them a little bit about You know, in 6th grade, chronic absences becomes a leading indicator that a student will drop out of high school. We talked about reading, so you've seen all these facts before. Who is chronically absent? We talked about this with the community. Many people didn't know what that meant. Student 10% of the school year. If you were absent 10% or more of the school year, you were classified as a chronically absent student. For us, we're on a 180-day calendar. That means 18 days. That's why our high school went to a 9-day attendance policy per semester. And a chronically absent student is absent on average 2 days a month. So when I looked at the business people at Rotary, I said, I want you to imagine hiring someone for 180 days. They're going to work for you for 180 days. And off the bat, you already know they're going to be absent 18 days. And I have to tell you, there was an audible gasp in the room. Because as an employer, if you have someone who is absent on average 2 days a month, you could just think about that. So it wasn't a good feeling. They recognize that it is an issue in our community, and it's something that we need to seriously discuss with our kids. So this is our chronic absenteeism report from DataQuest at a glance. Redwood last year, you've seen all these numbers before. It was interesting bringing it to the community. Last year, Redwood took a decline, which is fantastic. Dana Gray actually increased. We had more students absent at Dana Gray. So we're going to look at that in just a minute and try and figure out what grade level and from where. The middle school had a decline, so that was good. The high school had a decline, and part of that was because of moving to the 9-day attendance versus the 15 days. And then Shelter Cove and Lighthouse, those are our alternative schools. They continue to struggle. And then for the district, we took a decline. Now, what's interesting to me is the county. When you look at the county numbers and our statewide numbers, we are below the county average, but we are well above the state average in chronic absenteeism. So it's something we need to address. We took a deeper look with the community members, and this is what I thought was interesting. This is kindergarten, just kindergarten. In 16-17, almost 1 in 3 kindergartners were absent 18 or more days. And if anybody is not alarmed by that, please be alarmed. That's a big number. Almost 1 in 3 kindergartners were absent 18 or more days. For the county, 1 in 4, and for the state, we are double the state average in kindergarten of chronic absentee students. That is not okay. So we have to send a better message. Number one, that kindergarten is truly important. And I get that there is immunity aerobics that happens that first month in kindergarten where everyone is sick. And I've literally walked into a first grade room and a kindergarten room at Redwood watching the puking happening and getting the kids to go home. I get that. But it's something we need to look at. In 17-18, kindergarten did a big improvement. I commend the Redwood staff for really pushing attendance. And you can see we're still below the county, but we're still a significant chunk ahead of the state. In grades 1 through 3, and this is how the data comes to us from DataQuest, in grades 1 through 3, Redwood is 24%, and because it's grades 1 through 3, for Redwood that's only grades 1 and 2, right? And for Dana Gray, this is only grade 3. So when you see at Dana Gray that 1 in 5 third graders are chronically absent, that's a big deal. At Redwood, 1 in 4. It's something we have to look at. The following year, again, attendance push, it looks good. Now remember, let's go back to the Dana Gray numbers for 17-18. We saw that Dana Gray's chronic absenteeism increased. If you look at this, and you see that Dana Gray's chronic absenteeism for grades 1 through 3 was 17.4%, and the back number was 18%, it didn't come from grade 3. Okay? I know people are looking at me like, what? Make an appointment with me, I'll show you all the numbers again. So this was an interesting slide to me because you can pinpoint grades 1 and 2 and grades 3. And then you can look at the statewide average. Statewide average in grades 1 through 3, 8%. That is rocking it. You know, we're over double of that at both of our sites. So it's, again, more things to consider, more things to address. Grades 4 through 6. So at Dana Gray, this is grades 4 and 5. And when you look at grades 4 and 5, where did the big leap happen? Grades 4 and 5 at Dana Gray. For the middle school, there was a leap only in grade 6. And then total for the district, grades 4 through 6, something happened where we actually increased, but we still decreased total as a district. We are well over double on the statewide average in these grades. And so it's something that we have to continue addressing. In grades 7 and 8 at the middle school, we took a decline there, and that was good. Shelter Cove remained the same. District went down. Again, looking at the average, we're not double here, but we're still way above the statewide average. And here's where the county shakes their head. And I've had more than one county person do this and say, Becky, I don't understand your district. And I say, I know, but we love Fort Bragg Unified. And the reason they don't understand our district is because our high school numbers should be the largest truancy in the district because the kids literally can walk away. Right? Judah laughs because he can drive away. So, and what you see from our high school is that our high school has the best attendance rate, half of the state average.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on at the high school? We have a pretty strict attendance policy. We adhere to it. People get to school. If they're not within the attendance policy for one reason or another, they go to Saturday school. Okay? And so.
Well, and they don't get credit.
And they don't get credit. So here is what we see, and it's we have to talk about it at a district level. The high school is the big anomaly. How are they better than the state? They're less than half of the average because attendance is taken more seriously there. So it's something we have to consider for the rest of the grade levels and ask ourselves, how do we send that same message and not just have it start at grade 9? So what does this all mean? We are looking at a $500,000 shortfall over the next 3 years. We've been discussing this. It's that third year out that's killing us. Now, is the budget going to change in 3 years? Of course it is. We don't know what revenues are coming in. We don't know what revenues are not coming in. Okay? We have no idea what's going to happen 3 years out. But the way the state requires us to budget is that we must show that we are fiscally solvent 3 years out, given the exact circumstances that we have right now. In that case, we're looking at a $500,000 shortfall. Okay? And that's because of increases to STRS and PERS. We're going up to a $15 an hour minimum wage that we have been preparing for. The COLA, the cost of living adjustment for California, is based on a nationwide average. So the cost of living in Kansas, which is not as high as our cost of living, is adjusted in that national average, and that's how we are funded, based on the national COLA. And then the bottom line is that our annual budget increases exceed the incoming new monies. So what can we do to increase revenue? We have a very limited supply. We can increase attendance and increase SED participation, which means we are doing something different. We have new forms that Pilar is going to talk about because we're hoping to do community eligibility provision. Yes? No.
Guess I'm wanting to know about talking about forms.
Okay. It's all electronic, but there's something to complete. Yes, that's what I meant. Okay, thank you. And then without an increase in revenue, and this is just bottom line economics. If we don't have an increase in revenue, we will be forced to reduce programs. There's no way around it. If there's only so much money coming in and we have so much money going out and those two numbers don't match, we have to fix it. Okay, how can the community help? Spread the word. Get kids to school. Discuss the importance of school attendance with families who have school-age children. Get your kids to school. Encourage families to keep family vacations to school breaks. If you have this opportunity for a golden family vacation, then take 5 days so that you do a short-term independent study contract and the school gets the attendance back. Remind families to use short-term independent study. They must take their children out of school for 5 or more days. And then encourage our families to complete the free reduced lunch forms, but it's going to be something new. Okay. And that was it. Thank you. So that is Attendance 101. This is what I will be showing to the community, the two community groups. And if anybody would like a copy of this, we will have this attached to the board minutes.
I wonder, we've been hearing about the 5th grade, And I wonder, that's my son's grade, if the attendance, what the relationship is between the attendance and their
Oh.
performance.
Like fifth grade as opposed to
Because
fourth?
it's fourth and fifth based
Yeah.
on those
Uh-huh.
screens. I wonder how fifth grade's attendance is.
That's a great question. We will be looking at that in the near future, because when the new numbers come out, that's something that we'll look at more closely. So, great question. Oh, sorry.
Because I know a couple families that, there's a lot of miss school.
When it said the Lighthouse has 100%.
Yes.
Absence?
Chronically absent. That
Chronically.
means
Wow.
they're
That's
absent
everyone.
18 or more days.
Yeah.
But they only have how many
They
students?
have roughly 12.
So that really is tough on your
Oh, yeah, yeah.
numbers.
So we have the honor of having our technology director here today. It's pretty exciting.
Can you hear me? All right. This is 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to try to go through it. An incredible amount happened this year, past few years, but this year has been pretty intense. Is it not loading?
It's loading.
There's another one. Oh,
There
no,
it
there
is.
it goes. Okay. This is just for this year. And does this work? Oops. It is slow. Of course it is. Okay. 1,884 work orders completed just this year so far. We have about a 2,000 work order a year average, and a work order, aka a ticket, can be anything from install projectors in the entire district is one ticket, or I have paper stuck in my printer is one ticket. So, and not everybody files work orders or tickets. Sometimes they just say, hey, quick, help me real fast, and we try to help everybody, and we do a lot of work that also doesn't get into tickets. So that's just the number. New surveillance system, 127 cameras so far, 1080p HD, night vision, district-wide. We're still deploying more. We built our own servers and custom operating systems to store 30 days of motion capture footage. We felt that wasn't good enough. We're actually in the process of upgrading 24/7 recording, 20 days, and that's at all sites. Some of the sites didn't even have them before. The servers that we built have redundancies, fail-safes, backups. Basically, in short, we built our own clouds. And geek speak for hardware people, high availability virtualization server clusters with redundant network attached storage using free and open source software on a tight budget. Just like to mention, people pay a lot of money for this. We don't. We're now 1-to-1. We actually have more Chromebooks than we do kids, but the logistics on that is prep periods, things like that. Sometimes they sit idle for a short amount of time. Our very last deployment is Redwood, and they're actually a little different than the rest of the district. They're a little tougher. They can fold in half, and they're touchscreen. So we are actually 1-to-1. It's been quite a journey. Ultra bright HD projectors in every classroom. Every single classroom in the district now has an ultra short throw, very bright projector. Some of them are actually smart projectors that use pens, and a very small handful of them you can actually put your finger up on the whiteboard. And one of the techniques that we do when we deploy these things is we do it over a whiteboard, where they can pull the screen up and pull out a dry erase marker, and we call it a dumb board, but they can actually draw over it like old school transparency, but you have the digital projector there. Just to give you an idea, this is in culinary here in the high school. All right. Welcome to Tech Day. PD in-house, we've been training everybody as much as we can. Becky allowed us to do a tech day for staff when they came this summer. It went over great. I worked with Max at the time, and we taught a class, and we actually felt like we got more across to the teachers and staff than we had ever had to before. Except we encourage staff and teachers to put in work orders for 1-to-1. We'll actually, if they file a ticket, we'll come sit down with them, time allowing, and help them with specifically what they need. So we're trying to do a lot of in-house professional development, slides, sites, everything, just bring everybody up to speed. It's ongoing and it's going to take a while, and we're not going to stop. Food services software. Poor Food Services lunch line computers and servers and back end was stored on a old server that was running all sorts of stuff, and so it was kind of struggling. We purchased some inexpensive hardware and basically tuned it up Ferrari status the best that we could and dedicated it specifically to the lunch lines and the food services back end. It's also backed up every night. We keep 30 days of backups, and leveraging our new clouds, we could probably keep longer if we needed to. I don't think we need to. As you can imagine, there's a million pages, web pages, resources that us 3 technicians, used to be 4, now 3 technicians have to access. Phone systems, intercoms, wireless, help desk, inventory, just everything that we have to manage across the entire district. There's so many of them that we actually forget about a couple of them until something happens and we have to go use them to fix it. So what we did was we organized them all into a giant web portal specifically for the technicians, and made it mobile phone capable so that wherever we are at any time, we can access pretty much everything we need to in the district quicker. And it has really changed a lot. And a silly little thing is I put in a news feed into the web page of the latest technologies and security problems and updates so that as we're going there, we kind of get updated of what's going on in the world. So we don't have a lot of time for stuff, but it's there streaming to us. Emergency response preparedness. I'm going to read this one verbatim so I don't make a mistake. We built a web portal for emergency services and law enforcement that can be made available within the district in the event of a major emergency. This year we met with local law enforcement and discussed the usage of critical systems that could be made available in the event of a major emergency. Basically, we felt that if a major emergency happened, we needed to have a system in place and waiting so that when emergency services and those type of people came, that we had the ability to, here's access to a web portal. And the web portal has maps, evacuation maps of the district. It has phone numbers, extensions for every single person in the district, surveillance camera access, and intercom access. And it's sealed away safely, and we have it in case it ever gets needed, and I hope it never gets needed. Okay.
And Ari, just to be clear, you are the only one that can access that in case of doomsday.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can have kids go through and try and find it and then wreak havoc.
I literally have to pull out a USB stick that has a one-time access that opens it up. Chromebook, book. Basically, one-to-one is where, there's 2 kinds of one-to-one. One-to-one is where you have one device per student, and the other one is you have one device per student that they take home and that they keep with them all the time. We may or may not be evolving to that. But one of the things that came up was checking out Chromebooks, students taking them home. Everyone was a little nervous, these new electronic devices, et cetera, how much do they cost? It seemed like a new thing. Well, I decided to go low-tech and go backwards on this one. Textbooks. Students are responsible for textbooks. If they get destroyed, if they get lost, and they're not cheap either. It's an old process that's been going on for a long time. The library is kind of a communal area in the school. So I thought it would be good that students could go to the library and check out a Chromebook just like it was a textbook. And just like a textbook, it's actually attached to Aries that affects things like sports, graduation, stuff like that. Student responsibility is nothing new. And everyone was scared about, how do we do this, to sign all these forms. It's the exact same thing as a textbook. We've been doing it forever. So I just wanted to leverage that. We're piloting it in the high school, and so far it's working really well. And it'll pave the way if we decide to do one-to-one, students take them home. That's for the future. Managing a classroom full of Chromebooks. Every single Chromebook in the district currently is running a piece of software called Impuro, where the teacher can view all of the screens in the classroom. They can lock individual Chromebooks. They can lock all Chromebooks. If they need to, they can push a web page to all the student Chromebooks so that everybody's literally on the same page. They can show what they're doing to all of the students, not really needed when we have the projection systems, but they can also show what a student is doing to all the other students, if someone's doing it right. And the way that it works is they use a Google Classroom. Once they have built their Google Classroom, they access a web page, and the web page leverages their Google Classroom to show all the Chromebooks in their classroom. And that's currently district-wide. The only thing holding us back from it being used in every single room is training, and we're getting there. Google and Aries Gradebook. We hooked Google and Aries Gradebook together, Google Classroom. Google Classroom assignments will automatically, well, not automatically, the teacher has to press a button in Aries, but then all of the assignments and all of the grading that happens inside of Google Classroom will automatically be ported into Aries Gradebook, proper format, columns, all of that, it'll all be there. We also learned how to use Google Forms in Google Classroom as quizzes. And there's actually some anti-cheating techniques, randomizing answers, stuff so people can't share. And when they finish the quiz, it's automatically graded with an internal answer sheet, and then we'll go into Aries Gradebook. And that's, several of the teachers are already starting to leverage that. There are so many accounts and sign-ons throughout the entire district. My Aries account, my Google account, all of these different accounts. And what we've been doing is merging them so that it's one Google sign-on. You hear the term single sign-on a lot, and that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to bring them all in so that really all you need is your one account and you can access all the different resources we have. That includes curriculum too for the kiddos, because that gets difficult as well. We have curriculum for various grade levels, teachers going, I can't remember my login for this curriculum, but of course I remember my email account, so we hooked them all together the best we could, and we've been working with Student Information Services a lot. SBAC testing. Everything comes off of SBAC scores these days. It's all digital. Students and teachers shouldn't have to stress out and worry about using the technology. It's a test. They need to be worried about taking the test, not the technology. Every single Chromebook in the entire district is usable as a kiosk test station. You can, anytime one breaks, things happen, pick up another one. It will just work. We deployed mice and headphones to every single Chromebook in the entire district to help in testing. And basically, they get to use them throughout the school year, and at the end of the year, we figure out how many are broken and lost, and we replace those with testing funds and rinse, repeat the next year. It's getting a lot easier. We have that. One of the things that we're piloting right now, and it's actually working, critical classroom devices, printers, things like that. If a teacher's printer breaks, we don't have them. We're not an online store. We don't just have everything on the shelves. We're not rich. And so what we decided to do was, because we needed to do this quickly, I realized there's Amazon and other sources, but what we did was we found good deals and purchased a bunch of printers. We keep the printers in-house, and the teachers use the old school technique of a material resource like paper or pencil or something like that. The front office sends that off. Business office says, yes, they purchased it with their funds from their site. We put out a work order and it gets delivered and installed. So we actually get to have them in-house, and they're funded by the right place. We don't have to wait a week. I'm sorry, I know you need a printer right now. You're doing yearbook. I don't know what to tell you. No. I don't have to say much about this. Well, I'll say this. These racks right here, there is one at every major site, and it runs everything. The internet, the phone system, all of it. It wasn't just that they weren't organized right. We literally, like an old car, we ripped them down to the bare metal and used sockets and moved everything and put it all back together while you guys were on spring break. And we're continuing to do this throughout the district, and this summer is going to be super busy. But we're going to last a long time once this is all rebuilt. I don't know if any of you know who that is. I hope you do. We took the team to SEPA, I think this is correct, California Educational Tech Persons Association. It is Educational Tech Conference every other year. It happens in Sacramento. We took our entire team to get some really good professional development from vendors and some of the best people out there. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to, oh, and they got exposed because it's also, the very last day is a vendor expo. They get to see all the newest stuff. I mean, we're sitting down at the Aries booth, the Elmo booth, we get to see everything. So every other year we try to take our team there to keep them up to date. New CTE computer lab. This is, as far as end user computer, this is the shining gem of the district. Each one of these computers, I hate to use this term in a school district, is the equivalent of a gaming computer. Accelerated
Mr.
graphics.
Carr is in the back smiling, by the way.
These are incredible machines. Video editing, they're capable of CAD. Just about anything computer related that is heavyweight can be run on these. And if it can't, that's some pretty heavy stuff, and we can upgrade them. And every single one of these was hand built. Wow. The marquees at middle school and high school both broke. We're not sure whether it's to the wonderful weather or the winter that we had, but our department ripped them apart, put them back together, replaced parts after parts until everything was running again. We fully understand them now. And so we'll be able to keep them going and keep them. They're going to be out of warranty very soon, but we understand them, so we know what parts we'll have to buy instead of an entire new system. I hope you can see that for scale. That's our technician, Roberto. That is the high school gym's projection system. Supports Chromecast, AirPlay, standard HDMI. It's 300-inch diagonal motorized screen. And we got the brightest projector that we could afford at the time. It's a really good system for rallies and presenters to come. Document camera deployments. We threw this in just because it's an essential classroom part. Everybody says, teachers say Elmo when they talk about their document cameras, and that's because it's the #1 brand, it's targeted towards education. They cost a minimum of about $1,000 a piece. We wanted to give them something that was the same quality and pay half that. And it actually took a couple of years of researching the right model and finding everything. These are between $400 and $500. We just deployed a ton of them at Dana Gray, and they are loving them. And it's Epson, so it kind of falls in suit with the rest of the equipment that we've been installing. This is one of my favorites. I'm almost done. At Redwood, we've deployed several of these, and I've ordered more. It's a remote control. It's a keyboard, it's a mouse, it has play, fast forward. They're less than $20. You plug it into a PC, and the teacher can get up. And that is a huge thing, especially at a little school, or at a little's school like Redwood. Can't be stuck at the desk necessarily. Just how cheap it is and how well they're working. And I actually use one of these as a remote at home for my TV. This is kind of a big one. We just deployed a server cluster across the district called Fog. And what Fog's job is, it does inventory. And it doesn't just do regular inventory, it actually does it by parts. It inventories serial numbers off of hard drives and stuff. Stuff that we really don't have time to rip apart and do it. People pull off stickers. Anyways, that's the tiny part that it does. The big part is it manages the sleep functions of computers that are plugged in. Desktops, laptops that are on docking stations, things like that. And what we're going to do is this summer we're pushing out a schedule that at 6 p.m. if a computer is idle, it goes into deep sleep. And then at 6 a.m., 5 p.m. it goes into deep sleep if it's not used. If you're using it, don't worry about it. If you walk away for 15 minutes, it's going to go into deep sleep. 5 a.m. they will wake up so that they're all up and running and ready to go for business. But that is about 12 hours of being down. One of the things we may do is we may also wake them up in the middle of the night to do Windows updates so that nobody has to deal with that during business hours. But the real part of this is, and 2,500 hours of electricity per weekday is actually a very low number. It's more than that, but we'll throw that in for now. And that's per day district-wide. So that could really, really, really lower our electricity usage. The library system software. Not all sites even had library software. Redwood didn't, and I don't think Dana Gray did. The software that we had was almost a decade old. We're using new software. Every single site has it. They're all tied together. It's hooked into Google. It's hooked into Aries. Parents can see what books are late. It works from a mobile phone. You can see what books we have. You can see what books are checked out. There's digital content, and this is deployed and it's live and it's district-wide. Short one, the wireless microphones that used to be at John Dietrich Center, we repoed those because they wouldn't last the length of a board meeting, and we installed them in Cotton, and so now Cotton Auditorium has 8 wireless microphones. It just makes presentations better. Deploying all these Chromebooks, there was a lot of laptops that were student laptops, and they were a bit slow and a bit aged, but they were just sitting there. And do we recycle them? No, we don't recycle them. We upgraded them. We put solid-state hard drives in them. We upped the memory. We basically brought them up to teacher level. So now for free, we have a whole stack of laptops that can go out to teachers and staff as replacements that we just have on hand really fast. 3D printing, I really like seeing, at first I was wondering why a 3D printer would be in a school like Dana Gray, and then I realized it really exposes them and shows them the possibilities of technology. And this was Rick's project. We helped set it up, but I thought it was amazing. And they use it all the time. That picture was from today. I don't know if there's any audio on this. There probably isn't.
Play a video of Ken Block trip in San Francisco on YouTube.
Playing Ken Block drifting San Francisco videos on YouTube.
Pause. Play.
Reduce volume by 20%, play full volume, skip ahead 30 seconds. This is a $180 device called the NVIDIA Shield. Apple TV, everything else out there, it's not even that new, and it's absolutely incredible. I wanted to get one from home. This is the last slide. We saw it as a $180 teaching device that was just absolutely incredible. It's possible in the future you may not even need a desktop. You may just be able to walk around the classroom with a remote. And they're inexpensive too. So that was this is the abridged version. We also have a wiki, that we put all of our tech knowledge in. God forbid anything happens to any of us. Somebody knows there's a web page that contains this stuff. And we have project management software finally for big projects. That way we can look at it and do up reports on the stuff. And I'm eating up so much time. I just wanted to also give thanks for Max Russell, a graduate here, who worked with us for a couple of years and got his A+ certification, a Network Plus certification, and his Computer Science AA, and is now chasing a career in the Bay Area. And he was a graduate here, and he was amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Ari. Please.
I was just going to say, when I look back at where we were 4 years ago with classrooms having to schedule their testing because we only had a classroom's worth of computers, to where we are today, I am amazed, proud, delighted. I mean, for the whole time I was on the board, it was one of my, I would go to conferences and see what districts were doing, and we were so far behind. And now I go to things and we're right there. We are close to caught up to the rest of the world. And Ari's tenacity, abilities is a large piece of that. His willingness to figure out how to do it without spending any money is amazing. I can't thank him enough for that. But really, when you look at the things just like the marquees and like so many of the other things, we don't have to call somebody in to fix them. We're taking care of it ourselves. And he's instilled a lot of excitement in the other guys that are working with him now. And it's really exciting to see, and I am so delighted with where we are with our technology now compared to where we were. So thank you.
And Ari, poor Ari found out that he was doing this report because I forgot to tell him. So thank you, Ari. I have to say, just very publicly, you are so good at what you do, and there is no way we would be here at this level without you. And anytime he's come into my office and said, "Hey Becky, there's a new toy, they're super cheap." I'm just like, what hours of the day are you doing this? But there's always something new. His brain's always thinking ahead. He's always looking at what we can do to expand and grow. His mind goes a million miles an hour, and I'll have to remind him to bring it down. The poor little T-Mobile guy came yesterday, and I thought, oh, sorry. We had to kind of say, power down there. But it was interesting because, you know, Ari can hold his own with just about anyone. So it was great watching him in action. It's been great watching how he's improved our district. And when I said, "Oh, Ari, it's just a 10-minute report. Just tell us what you've done this year." You know, I didn't understand why he had this gasp, because I truly didn't realize the magnitude of everything that's been done this year. So I said, "Well, just throw something together." So thank you for throwing something together. And what's been done is hugely profound, and we thank you for keeping us moving forward, because you're doing it. You, Ronald, and Roberto are doing a great job, and just a shout out to Max Russell wherever you are, because we sorely miss Max. So thank you for the vision.
I hope I'm not rude, but I have a commute.
Yeah, please.
On top of it.
So
Yeah,
can I
thank you
ask
so much.
Quick question on your way out the door. You said there's a flash drive for the emergency
Yes.
stuff that only you can. Is there any
Yes.
sort of backup? Like, does law enforcement have something, or is it just you?
It's very new,
Uh-huh.
very, very new. We met with them and we talked about it. We should put together a fail-safe. We were talking about, I don't want to publicly say where we would store it, but
Sure,
of course,
of course.
another place that it would be stored. And I think it should be. I just think it needs to be very guarded, because protecting our kiddos from, everybody. Yeah, it's a fail-safe for the worst that. Plus, and the only reason that exists is if something were to happen to the technicians.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they can grab a technician, and we introduced all of ourselves to emergency services and law enforcement and said, you know, here's where we are, here's who we are. In the event, you know, we will sit down and we will drive everything that you need to drive.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I ran IT at the city for a few years, and just seeing this was eye-opening and very impressive, and the district is super lucky to have you and your team.
Thank you.
So thanks.
Yeah.
Safe travels, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you from our students too, Ari,
Yes.
for what you've given them.
And the teachers appreciate you too.
I'm sure they thank them, but I'm sure the students don't realize
No.
what they have now from 4 years ago. Wendy's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just so impressed that Dana Gray is doing the testing all at one time. I was like, what?
Amazing. It is amazing.
Because I was the one
Yeah,
scheduling
yeah.
those classrooms.
And we also had to have everybody, only, everybody else has to get off the internet
Right.
while we're doing this.
Right.
Yeah, even Dana Gray had to come to the high school to test
Right.
one
Yeah.
year. I mean, it was just,
That's
it's awesome.
Quite impressive. I knew he would show some great work, and he really did. That's very impressive, the power of three.
Okay. All right, Mark.
All right, so I've got the CIF report, it's sports news. Don't have much to report on CIF-wise. Sportsmanship is still one of their top priorities. Ejections for high school sports are climbing, partly due to soccer, and is it a red card? Does 2 yellow cards equal a red card, which equals an ejection? So there's some controversies, but sportsmanship is their number one thing that they really want to try and get student athletes to realize how to conduct themselves during sporting events, and not just athletes, but coaches and community members, parents, and so forth. So sportsmanship is the big thing. Sports participation in CIF is up 2.5% from last year, which numbers-wise, over 800,000 students in California participate at the high school level. I was just reading a budget report saying roughly 6 million students in California public schools. They're enrolled in public schools, so if you're looking at 800,000, you're looking at 13% of California students, participating at the high school level. When we get to our numbers here at the high school,
we're way, way above that. So possibly that's the reason why for our attendance at the high school, but I'll get to that. This was the first year that scrimmages had to be done prior to any sporting event or sport game. So let's say soccer wanted to have a scrimmage. They couldn't do it during the season. It had to be prior to their first contest. And last year I talked about this being implemented. This was the first year, and everything went well with that whole change. The big thing that happened is the competitive equity with football. We are transitioning again to different divisions, and our playoffs are changing. And so there's now 8 divisions, and at first it was broken down into enrollment and then 3 years of competitive equity, meaning they took max preps, which is where they input all this data and records and so forth, and they looked at a 3-year span of where teams are competitively. They took enrollment, competitive number, it was like a strength of schedule, strength of school, and then they broke it down into individual divisions. This was driven strictly by, in my opinion, the private schools at the top that are tired of playing De La Salle because they always lose, and they felt that they needed a way out of having to play De La Salle. And so now it's broken down into 8 divisions. If you're in Division 1, you will have an opportunity to play in called an open division, which you'll go up against De La Salle eventually, but if you lose in that division, you get bumped down to Division 1 to compete in the Division 1 level, so you can still compete for a section championship. So how that affects us, we get stuck again, we get moved to Division 6, which we're again stuck with St. Patrick, St. Vincent, a bunch of bigger schools that even when we had really good teams, we still lost. But maybe that'll change. But this next year we will be in Division 6, and it's only going to be an 8-team tournament. And so instead of 16 teams making it, it's only 8 because there's only 13 teams now in Division 6. And 8-man football now has a separate section for themselves as well. And so we, of course, got moved up to Division 6. I feel we should be in Division 7, but these are all numbers that they came up with. That's NCS CIF. That was the big change. Here at the high school, though, I felt like it was important to just recognize some of the sports teams. So I broke down some of our league championships that we've won this year. So in the fall, JV boys cross country and varsity soccer. Varsity soccer is on they're on a run, and they actually lost in the semifinals to Fortuna, who won it all for NCS. So in the fall, those were the 2 teams. And then for spring, we crushed it. Varsity boys track, varsity girls swim, varsity golf, varsity baseball, and JV baseball all won. And considering that we offer 8 sports for spring, we won in 5 of them. So spring sports, they stepped it up. The number 1 sport on the rise right now is swimming and diving. Woohoo! Yes, and I got to throw out, Anna and Miss Walker have been huge in getting our students involved in that, and it's growing statewide. And so their increase is like 4.2% from last year, and so it's increasing. And then getting back to what Miss Walker was talking about with attendance, I broke down some numbers, and it's just pretty incredible what our student athletes are doing at the high school and how many people are getting involved. And so in the fall, we've got 175 individuals participating at once. In the winter,
out of an enrollment of how many? Out of an enrollment of 510?
Yeah, it's I think 506 right now. Yeah, 510. Yeah. So yeah, 175 in the fall are participating all at once. Those are all individuals. The winter we take a hit only because we offer 5 sports: basketball, which is broken down into JV and varsity, and then wrestling. But still 59 participate in winter sports. And then the spring, we've got 192 participating. So that's 36% of the high school participating at one time for a sport. And so if you calculate all that, that's 426 different opportunities, because we do have 3 sport athletes, 2 sport athletes, but the number is we're over 50% of the kids are participating at some point in the school year. And so if they care about their sport and they want to practice and get better, they got to be at school. And offering 24 different sports, we're the only campus that does that. And whether or not that is attendance, but it does give the kids something to look forward to. And the fact that over 50% of our kids choose to do it, it gives them a reason to be there. And the experiences they have with their coaches and the commitment to something bigger than themselves is really important. They learn a lot of life lessons, and it's bigger than themselves. And so I think the high school is doing awesome with providing those opportunities, and we'll see where we go from there.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has been.
Oh,
go ahead.
Can we also give a shout out to the golf team, who I believe went undefeated this year?
Yes. Good job, Mr. Carr,
yes.
golf team. You can all tell our favorite sports here.
It's the first time since I've been head coach, and the first time we've won since 2007.
Okay, so what Mr. Carr said, so we can get it on in the mic. Mr. Carr is the varsity and JV golf coach. It is the first time that they won league since 2007. So he pretty pumped there. Good job, golf team. What I wanted to say to Mr. Cimolino is he has been truly instrumental in working with our athletes. He is our athletic director, and people don't understand what that means. I will tell you, Mr. Cimolino, it is a thankless job, but I want to thank you. I know the headaches that you have dealt with, the kids that you've inspired and motivated, the coaches you've helped get out of pickles, everyone that you have helped with just accolades, with transportation, with scheduling, with weather prediction, which is your forte, I must say. Do we call a game? Do we not call a game? And I've had the opportunity to work with Mark on so many levels, and I'm excited for him. He will be our new assistant principal at the middle school next year, so he is leaving the ranks of athletic director and jumping into a new joy. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you so much.
I really just want to thank you what you've done with so many students on so many levels. And just to give a shout out to the board, I had a parent ask me, I want to say within the last couple of months, about budget when we started working on budget, and made the comment that she really felt it was important for us to look at reductions across the board, including athletics. And my comment to the parent was, when you look at our attendance rates, and that is our major source of funding, and when you see that the high school is less than half of the state average, when you look at the high school attendance rates and you're talking about bringing money and revenue into the district, and we know that our sports has a direct correlation to keeping kids in school, Mark will tell kids, hey, if you're sick, if you're too sick to come to school, you're too sick to play in the game, you're too sick to practice. And Mr. Cimolino is pretty clear on the rules, and if a coach doesn't enforce them, Big Brother comes right behind and says, I'm sorry, that student can't be practicing today. That student doesn't get to play. And it is taken very seriously. It's not about favorites. The rules are the rules. And so I just want to commend you for always being on top of it. He looks at attendance on every day of a contest. He makes sure that we adhere to the rules, and the students know there is no getting around it. And I truly believe that you are correct, Mr. Cimolino. It's one of the reasons why our high school attendance is high. So my comment to you as we go into budget workshops at the end of the month, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I want to commend you on what you're doing. I want to commend the high school on what they're doing. I want to commend all our kids on what they're doing. It's impressive to see how it's all happening. So good job, sir.
Excellent. I just got to thank you for the opportunity, because it's taught me a lot and it's prepared me for the next step. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just a shout out as well, as just it's good for the community because it's giving the kids something to do. It's not just a special for an hour, every 2 weeks. It's 5 days a week, every day, and it's giving them a place to go.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Julian.
Okay. All right, so we're moving on to summer school report.
Microphones.
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me? All right, just tell me if I get too loud. Let's push that away. Okay, we're heading towards summer school for 2019. I do have some exciting news for the board. So Becky received a survey, and we've increased summer school funding this year. And with that increase in funding, we're finally able to acquire new curriculum. I know that there have been many board reports following summer school sessions from our summer school principals complaining of outdated, severely outdated curriculum. So as soon as we can do it fiscally and the MOU is done, it's been approved, we're going to be procuring brand new curriculum for all of our migrant ed program that's Common Core aligned and rigorous and actually dovetails with the adopted curriculum that we have during the school year. So it's very exciting. So there's that. So we've actually moved up in funding on it. We're also qualifying for a binational teacher again. So at one point in time, we had a teacher come from Mexico, stay with a host family in Fort Bragg, and provided culturally enriched program for all migrant ed students. That we lost that when our student numbers dropped. They've come back up. So we also had the happy news that we're going to have a teacher from Mexico come to Fort Bragg, and that will be added to our program. So summer school looks this way. We're going to have our migrant ed program over at Dana Gray. We're going to give Redwood Elementary a break. They've been hosting for many years now, so they'll get a chance to catch up on custodial work. And we will have our migrant ed at Dana Gray, and then we'll have extended school year for special ed throughout the district except for the middle school. So it'll be at Redwood and Dana Gray and the high school and TLC. That's about it. We're still in enrollment. Our numbers haven't finalized. We're just now announcing the positions to the teachers and staff that have taken it. We look to be fully staffed, and we're going to have a great year this summer. So that is, actually, I'm going to be the brief one. That's our summer school report. Do you have any questions about summer school right now?
So
Yes.
just for the public, this isn't coming from general fund sources. This is something that's coming from
That's right.
another earmark of
yes, we apply for funding. I do a memorandum every year, or do I apply for a grant every year? And then we have an MOU, and so it's supplied to us through the California Department of Ed.
And is there any other options for our low-income kids to have? Because that's, a huge part of our numbers in the district. We're almost 70, helping them with their summer loss learning.
Yeah, I hear you. We do. That is an area for us to look into in the future. Right now, we're getting funding through migrant education. CDA provides it. If I become aware of a program that will allow us to fund summer school for our economically disadvantaged youth, I promise I'll go after that. Mm-hmm. But as right now, and we're going to try to grow it out. So if we can't fill our slots for migrant education students that are qualified, we do open it up to our English language learners as well. So we try to stack those classrooms as full as we can.
Okay. You guys, are doing a great job.
Yes.
Because as the district, as they grow, by the time they're in high school, we have, maybe no English language learners. So it's amazing. So they're getting what they need.
We still have English language learners, but they're redesignated.
Yep. Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, right. Exactly. I'm saying that they don't need the services in the same way because they're.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the summer school teachers did with those pre and post tests that we've seen before with new curriculum. I mean, it's going to, I would assume it would be even a bigger growth.
It's very exciting. So Joanne Farrell, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, did some research and worked with the different textbook publishers. And so for our ELA program, that's Benchmark Advanced, K through 5. Well, now we're going to be bringing the summer school version of Benchmark Advanced to our learners. So preschool all the way through 5th, we have wonderful curriculum coming in.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so last year there was an attendance problem, and that was due to a lack of maybe a point person. So is that going to be cured this year, especially with the extra teacher?
Yeah, so what we're doing this year is we're going to have a field trip in the last week to try to keep them hooked in. Raffle tickets, presenting at DLAC, and trying to stress the importance to our Latino community of getting them to summer school every day. But we've got some measures in place to try to offset what happened last year.
And you'll still offer lunch, and it'll be all at Dana
Yes.
Gray, and anyone's available to attend the lunch? Is that?
We'll have breakfast and lunch. Thank you
Okay.
to our Director of Nutrition Services.
It's open to all, any children for free.
Yes.
Get the word out.
That's right.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so then that moves
See, I
on
told
to,
you I'd be quick.
on to SELPA.
Okay, so this is a report. So every year, California Department of Education looks at the data we report on our special education students. And they're looking at everything from the least restrictive environment to our graduation rates, ethnicity, disability categories, one of them statewide assessments. So right now we're in year one of being disproportionate, and they were looking at our 17-18 data on the dashboard. We're disproportionate for participation in statewide assessments, and we're disproportionate in achievement for statewide assessments. So what that required us to do was participate in what they call a performance indicator review. And what we do is we assemble a multidisciplinary team. So you have a general education administrator, a special education administrator, someone from SELPA comes over. We have a teacher on the team. So we have a whole host of people on the team that are doing a root cause analysis. We've been meeting throughout the year, performing a root cause analysis for why our participation rates were right under it. So the benchmark statewide, no matter where you're at, is 95%. I think we hit 92%. And 93%, so we're just missing it. And so we're performing that analysis, and then we're putting together a plan to meet those needs, and then we'll be meeting throughout next year to monitor and see how we're doing. So there's that, and then we have achievement issues. On the SBAC, our students with disabilities are performing substantially lower than their general education counterparts. Same analysis, we did the root cause analysis there. The big message I wanted to share with the board is right now we're doing this analysis, but if we stay disproportionate for 3 years, we go into something called significant disproportionality. And what that can mean to Fort Bragg Unified is that a portion of our special education funding can be put into an early intervening assistance program, so it doesn't get taken from us. It just, they start putting more controls on how we spend that special education dollars. And what they found is this early intervention program can help us get back on track if we're having trouble getting there ourselves. And like I said, we're not missing the participation rate by much, but we are missing on the achievement rate. I think it's much similar to the dashboard. If we make improvements and gains, we'll come up on the dashboard and come out of disproportionality. So I remain hopeful. The team is working hard.
Maybe the indicator would change. It seems so inequitable.
Yeah.
It
doesn't seem fair.
One of my complaints.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Students with disabilities, even with accommodations and modifications, if you have a learning disability, you struggle. I was talking to, again, Joan Farrell, who oversees English language learners. She expressed much of the same concern for English language learners. But like I said, we've got a wonderful team together, and we're putting together a plan that we'll monitor, and I'll keep reporting back on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Any questions for Carolyn?
How many of the kids are on a certificate as opposed to a diploma?
Not many. Certificate of completion, I don't think is the big barrier, although I do have a complaint about certificate of completion. So I'm going to answer your question, but let me back up. Right now, the California Department of Ed looks at certificate of completion as a dropout. So it is one of the factors, right? Because of that, all of our students, when we're holding our IEP meetings, we all focus on diploma bound. We're diploma track. There are students that are low on the spectrum, severely disabled, that obviously are going to go into certificate of completion. But wherever practicable, we are focusing on getting a diploma for all of our students with disabilities.
Right.
And that's an individual IEP team decision, and it's a small percentage of our population. I'll have to get that figure for you.
I agree.
Okay.
That's very unfair.
Yeah.
We're
We're
struggling with that on so many levels, and you know, when Carolyn talks about the individualized educational plan, it is individualized. It's difficult. There's a lot of our IEP kiddos whose parents opt to have them removed from any state testing, and it's different based on the severity of the student. You know, mine's pretty severe, and it's pretty intensive for him to do it. So we're struggling with it. Carolyn and I look at this information, and we always say we're going to err on the side of the kid. We're going to do what's best for families, and the state can come in and look at what we're doing, and we're going to err on the side on what's best for kids and go with that. We're not going to pressure parents into making decisions that, you know, to keep us out of paperwork. We're going to make the decision on what's best for kids based on their IEP.
Yes.
So that may not always come out ahead for us at times, but we do put kids first, and I know Carolyn works really hard for that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we doing okay to keep going with reports, or do we want to break?
I think we should try to get
Get
Pilar
them-
on,
okay.
and then we can take a break. Is that okay?
Okay. I'm just checking in.
Well, Pilar and Danette are waiting
Right.
patiently.
Yes.
So.
Almost there.
I'm here for the long haul anyway tonight, so. Hi. Pilar Gray, Director of Nutrition Services. So we launched breakfast in the classroom at our 2 elementary schools this year, as you know, and we were asked to do some surveying. And so we did a fall survey of the teachers at both school sites, and then we just resurveyed again last week to see, you know, how they're doing at this time of year. So I've presented you with the results of those surveys. Interestingly, it's been very much, it's better received at Dana Gray Elementary than Redwood Elementary, as you can see by these results. And we knew that was happening, and so accordingly, there were some concerns coming out of Redwood from the Parents Club. So we also surveyed the Redwood parents. Dana Gray was not giving any concerns. They've been feeling very positive about it. I have not received a single complaint or issue from that site, other than little minor things that have nothing to do with, you know, major changes. So we surveyed the Redwood parents as well. And you also have the results of their surveys in there. And they're similar to the teachers. They have the same sorts of concerns. Well, the teachers have same and different. The teachers have concerns about the food. They also have concerns about the messes and the impact on their days. The parents are mixed. Some of them love it. Some of them are not loving it. There's concerns around the food as well, because it's very carbohydrate based, as is this National School Breakfast Program. We have to serve grains and fruit in the morning. And when you do that in a classroom, that generally comes in the form of a breakfast bar or muffin or bagel or cereal, something of that nature, therefore carbohydrates. So there's a lot of information in here, responses. I gave you all their comments and so forth, but in a nutshell, at Redwood Elementary, between fall and spring, you know, to me, the biggest question is, do we continue or not from them? Didn't change. The exact same percentage, 35%, or we'll say 36, we'll round it up there for, at Redwood Elementary, said, yes, let's continue it. And this is the teachers, and about 65% said no. And it didn't change. It didn't change throughout the years, exact same percentage. Dana Gray, at the beginning of the year, 80% said yes, let's keep going. 20% said no. At the end of the year, they're feeling better about it. 87.5% said yes, and 12.5% said no. And that was actually one person. Only 8 people responded at the Dana Gray out of the teachers. What does that mean? I don't know. Often I think if people have something to complain about and they have the opportunity to complain about it, they will complain about it. And so the opportunity was there, and those that responded, who took the time, were feeling really positive about it. So I'm happy to see that our Dana Gray team likes what we're doing. I'm not so happy to see that the Redwood team's not as excited about it. But that's where we're at with that. And the parents at Redwood, where did I come down to? Sorry, so much paper here. Basically, what it comes down to, whether or not it should be continued, about 60% said no, and about 28% said yes, and the others were kind of like, whatever, in the middle. No strong opinions either way.
Wait, I have the parents as backwards. So I have 60% said yes. Is that what you just said?
Did I get that backwards?
Yeah, the parents is 1 and 2 is agree.
I think it was just
Oh, I'm
Redwood.
sorry. You're correct.
Yeah.
I got that backwards. Thank you for catching that.
I noticed it was different than teachers.
No, you're right. Thank you for fixing that for me. I did that on the fly here, sitting on the chair. Been a long week. Yay, 60% say yes,
Good.
about 28% say no, and 10% are in the middle. And another note about it, just to give you some perspective on participation, which is not in your report. Last year at Redwood Elementary, we had an average of 129 students per day eating breakfast. This year so far, we've had an average of 347 students a day eating breakfast. Big reason why we're doing this. At Dana Gray last year, 88 students per day average. This year, 290 per day average. Huge participation increases by moving it into the classroom. Budgetarily, I don't have all the numbers for this year yet. Last year, 17-18, our total income for breakfast, district-wide, all of our breakfast programs, all schools, was about a little over $188,000. At this year, August through March, at only Redwood and Dana Gray, over $165,000. And we haven't finished the year yet. Do you have questions about this?
So is there, because the way I summed it up, it seemed, well, there was 191 responses from Parent Club, which is pretty impressive. So you also have to realize that the staff, like you said, if people are really unhappy, we would have had full response, but we didn't on either side. But it sounds like the concern is that folks really don't like the juice. Is there anything that we can do to adjust or not? They really don't like the bars.
Yeah.
And
so just trying to adjust those two factors, or is there any to
There was a kind of a split. There was a split on the juice when it came from the parents, and there's a choice there. They have milk that's provided every day. The juice is an option. It was about a 50-50 split on whether to keep it going in. My staff has been working directly with teachers who are saying, yes, we need juice in here. I have kids who cannot tolerate dairy or don't want dairy. Others like, please don't send the juice in. Fine, we don't send the juice in. We don't have to send juice in, so they're just kind of adjusting individually by the classrooms for them, for that concern. But we opted at this point not to remove it because there was, a good percentage who still did want it. So we left it there. And as far as the bars go, and one of the hard things for people to understand is that the product that we're getting, as much as people are highly critical of it, is really some of the best product out there that you can get for school breakfasts, prepackaged. We have scrutinized ingredient labels to make sure that they're clean. Everything's whole grain rich. We've got the lowest sugar items that we could find. Avoiding things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial flavors and things as much as we possibly could, and also keeping it within a price point that we can afford. And even going above our price point, there's not a whole lot more out there available. I mean, particularly the ZZ bars is one of the best products you can get out there on the market. Again, it's a very, very clean ingredient list. They are whole grain, and yes, there are sugars in it. There's going to be sugars in just about every carbohydrate breakfast bar you get out there. There's going to be sugars in home baked goods. So it's a real challenge at school breakfast that we deal with, whether we're in the classroom or we're in the cafeteria, because we are required by law to serve grains and fruit. at breakfast. And we have a little exception to move in some proteins, but it's a very minor exception. You have to offer grains first. So, and then when you start doing transportation, it really adds a lot of complexity to what you're trying to achieve. So at this point, we feel that we don't have the capacity to be doing hot food in the classrooms. Our team is definitely not ready for it. I don't think we have enough staffing or facility to achieve that. So we're pretty much stuck at this point with a cold breakfast. So we spent a lot of time researching the best we could. I've often joked with some people that I think I should have started with, the trick cereal bar, so everybody would now think this is great, because, that's what I see going into most schools' breakfasts, is these other things. But we went, straight for the A game and got the best that we could. And, and I understand their concerns. I mean, people have genuine concerns around this. Too many carbohydrates and sugar is not good for any of us. But unfortunately, I cannot control the laws and rules that are put down by USDA. I just have to do the best we can with my staff to navigate them and do the best we can for the kids. So we have found the best product we can, and we're constantly searching for new products. And it's amazing how challenging they can be to find. And I think it's because we do have higher standards. I mean, if we were okay with the trick cereal bar, we could get that all day long, no problem, and get it super cheap, but we're not okay with that. Mm-hmm. So we've had to really jump through some serious hoops and bidding projects and bringing food in pallets at a time, and able to get the quality that we are getting. And I understand people are still concerned about it, but I don't see that there's a whole lot of room in reality of improving that product at this time.
So how do we make, with it being so split, is it tied to us doing the community eligibility provision? How do you make that decision? Whether to do it and not, and where are we going?
So can I chime in here really quickly? Sure. One of the things that I think is interesting about Pilar's report is that you can see that not every kid is eating every day. Right. We have 400 plus students at Redwood, 400 plus students at Dana Gray, and you can see that there are several students who are opting, no, I had breakfast at home, I don't want it today. One of the things that Pilar and I have talked about is that we are not going to please everyone on this. Mm-hmm. The idea when we work as a school system is how can we help the most kids and what is the greatest need? Mm-hmm. And that need for one is not the same need for another. And so I think that's where we're at as an administrative and school board team, is what's the need? When you look at the numbers and say, okay, 88 kids were having breakfast at Dana Gray, and now we have 288 kids having breakfast at Dana Gray, that's a big jump. And it's the same thing for Redwood. So what is the greater need? When we look at our socioeconomically disadvantaged numbers and we are pushing 80% at both Redwood and Dana Gray, those are things that we have to look at. And quite frankly, I know people are really upset about the carbs, but when we have little kiddos hungry and they go to Nurse Tanya or they go into the Dana Gray office, what do we have non-perishable food on hand, right? Which is what? Granola bars, raisins, things that'll keep. And so what's difficult is we know we're not going to please everyone. But again, I go back to, we are a poor community. We know we have lots of kiddos who aren't eating. How can we afford to do this? I want to commend Pilar on the amount of work that she's done with this, because from the beginning she has said, I'm not going to get the Trix bars. we are not going to get these sugar-filled cookie candies. She's really done a great job on looking for alternative foods. They just found a muffin made out of sweet potatoes. Mm-hmm. That it's still a carb, but that's the hard part of what we're limited to. Protein is incredibly difficult to get. We're not going to meet everybody's standard. And then you have to look at the mess. Cereal's been a tough one, but cereal is mostly a carb again,
popular.
with the exception of the milk. So I think when we're looking at this, I don't think 1 year of data is enough. I think people are to the point where they're getting a routine down. I want to put just some accolades out for our TK teachers. Maureen Smith told me very early in the game, or not early in the game, she said, Becky, I'm trying something new. I said, okay, what are you trying? She said, well, I'm letting the kids come in and play first, get some energy out, and then we're all sitting down to breakfast together. And she just shifted her day by 10 minutes. And it was a small shift, but it made breakfast much more manageable for her, and she's got the youngest kiddos on the block. So I know everybody is working hard and there's some frustrating things with it, and we're doing our best to address it. But what you need to remember as a board is that regardless of what we do in this district, doesn't matter, we all know this, we are never going to please everyone. We need to do the best we can with what we have, and we have to try and make the best decisions for the most number of students possible. So for right now, I would say with breakfast in the classroom, we do need to proceed with it for one more year. I know we're gonna work out more kinks. I know we're gonna feed more kids. And to the parents who say, well, I don't want my kids to eat that, they don't have to. We don't have a full school eating breakfast every day. Just from her numbers alone, you can see that not every kid is eating, and they're making the choice to either bring in their own food or I had breakfast at home and I'm good.
So is breakfast available in the cafeteria, or is it done now?
Not at Dana Gray and Redwood.
So there were a couple comments about parents not knowing what their kids were eating for breakfast. Is there any way to, I know you can't do it on a daily basis, is there any way to communicate like a list of common things they may have, or
Sure.
something like that? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, all that data is available readily at my fingertips, and I'll figure out a way to disseminate it.
Well, and it's, the other thing I want to commend Pilar with is that our food service workers have really been working together. So like the high school will make some kind of a fresh baked good, and it won't be for every class, but you know, once in a while a class will be so excited, oh, we get muffins, but they're muffins made by the high school staff. And the same thing with Redwood, it's something made by the middle school staff. So it's not always equal. Every classroom won't always get the same thing in the morning, because Pilar is really working with her staff to bring in a variety of things so that fresh baked homemade food, they get it on a rotation. So there are some days where, you know, some kiddos will get a bran muffin made by the high school staff, and another class won't. They'll have the ZZ bar, or they'll have the applesauce, or the bagel, or so. But you've done a really good job of trying to bring in the variety and really providing a lot of different options for parents. And I appreciate that, you know, there are things like raisins that are always available, and there are applesauces, and there is a milk or a juice, so that we can accommodate people's different needs. But I think under the circumstances, trying to feed 800 students and pleasing, you know, that many families, that's a tough call. It's a tough call, and it's an impossible task. But you've done quite well, so
thank you.
And thanks for doing the survey. I know getting information like this can be scary when you put so much heart and soul into a new project, but you got some really great response. So
it's okay. I wasn't surprised by the results, so no, thank you.
I have to say, one of the cutest things is the pride in the kid that gets to roll the cart. I mean, it is like they are the president. You know, they come down the hallway with that cart like, this is my job, and it's so sweet.
It is pretty cool, and I full-heartedly agree with Becky that 1 year is not nearly enough to assess whether or not this program should continue or not. We've still got a lot of kinks to work out, and it's been a very, very challenging year in a lot of ways. So a lot of changes, and you know, we're not done trying to improve this.
Well, thank you for trying to find good, healthy.
Yeah, and we will continue
That
to,
makes
and
a big
you know,
difference.
and the staff keeps making adjustments. They heard loud and clear people wanted more fresh fruit, so they've been working really hard to get that fruit washed in the morning in the bags as much as they can, and you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate all the staff, because I know in the get-go, you know, storage and the trash level, I don't know how that's all going, and it's much harder on the Redwood staff. And
the
that's
logistics.
when you need to get your families in there to help with the
Careful what you wish for when you ask for growth.
Right. So, you know, they really do say, really, 1 to 3, you have to go 3 years to get some data. And so
well, and even Claire Hundley, as a second grade teacher, deployed her second graders to go out and help the TK in the kindergarten classes. I mean, it's been lovely. I was in Claire's classroom one day, and we had a sub issue, and I came in and I'm reading the plans, and I'm looking around, and the kid's like, okay, Mrs. Walker, we got to go. Where are you going? And, you know, and they had their kindergarten classrooms that they were assigned to help, and so it's that kind of teamwork that makes it possible. It is an imperfect system, please know that. But with everything that Pilar is working on, and working with the staff and the administration, I truly believe it will get better. Lots of kinks to work out still, but it's better than it was 7 months ago.
Good. We're tenacious. We're going to keep working at it.
Well, like you said, well, you're a very health conscious person, so we're way ahead of a lot of districts in terms of what we're providing.
Well, thank you. We try
thank
very,
you.
very hard to make it as best as we can.
Well, you do a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So our CSEA?
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Sawyer, Union President for CSEA. Not much to tell. We had our last meeting a month ago. We already talked on that one. Our next meeting will be on the 22nd of this month, along with our retirement party. We did finish negotiations this morning. That will be ratified at our next meeting on the 22nd, and our very last meeting for the school year. So.
And can
please
you
come there, 4 o'clock,
Okay, I got it written down.
round table,
Right.
May 22nd.
May 22nd.
And that's it. Not much to report on. Thank you.
Thank you for staying for
Thank
2
you.
hours
Yes.
for that, Jeanette.
Enriching, I'm sure.
Okay, and do we have an FBDTA report? Okay.
Who's the president this year?
Angie Daniels.
I mean, I'm not being critical, but in my 8 years here, I've never not had a FBDTA person at the meetings.
They've been.
Everything's going so well, they don't need to come.
No, well, they typically have had someone here, and I think it's just the wrong time of year, to be honest with you. I think it's crunch time. So there's a lot going on. But I meet with them regularly, and they've been really good about keeping roundtable and keeping me abreast of any hot button issues and working with teachers and working with me. So I've appreciated their support.
Well,
maybe
no
we
news
should,
is good news. Sometimes.
right? Or if, I don't know if we want to. I mean, maybe a written some. I don't know. It would be nice to.
They're happy. We're happy.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm assuming that the T-Mobile person is not coming.
So I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest.
I was
so you
curious.
know.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from this gentleman from the T-Mobile Foundation. They have a program where they front a district $200 per per student potentially, that covers the cost of a hotspot that they can take home and part of the cost of a Chromebook. The hook is that anybody who participates in it and takes the hotspot home has to subscribe to T-Mobile for their internet service. And it is only $20 a month, and we do have a lot of families that don't have internet at home. So it was worth finding out what it was. And basically what they're doing is they're fronting you the money to pay them back. And this service, I mean, basically that's what it is. And the service agreement is over 2 years. It's a flexible 2 years where it's only the school year, so you can carry those months over. But it's still a large commitment, and it is 2 years worth, and probably the cost is over the 2 years a little greater than the money that would come in. We saw many challenges to it for us. One is the participation level. We might not have enough kids to participate to make it even worthwhile. The cost of the subscriptions, would that fall in the district? We could ask the parents to contribute, but that gets into a whole nother quagmire. So I think the general feeling was that it would probably end up being more of a cost than a benefit to the district, and we were already looking for ways to reduce our budget, not increase it. So now is probably not a good time for us to talk about that, not to mention I asked him when he came into town, did you come across Highway 20? Yep. Did you notice when you finally got service? Nope. So, I mean, that's a big challenge for us, too.
Yeah.
So, I think it sounded like something we should hear about, exists, but it's not really, we didn't feel, at least as an administrative council, that it was probably something we should pursue at this point. So, I think he felt that pretty strongly when he left, and that's why he's not here tonight.
Well, that was going to be my question, 'cause thinking like, would it even work here? Because I don't even
Yeah.
know about T-Mobile anymore.
When you met with the administrators yesterday, I mean, and Ari was in the room, if you can imagine. When he met with us yesterday, one of the issues that we had was that we had to kind of give him an upfront number. We want to do this for 100 kids. And I said 10, okay? Because the district has to pay for it. So if we have 10, if we commit to 10, then we have to buy 10 hotspots. We have to get 10 Chromebooks for those 10 hotspots. And then we have to pay $20 a month for those 10 hotspots, okay? We can put that cost back on the family, but, okay, I think about where all of us live. You know, I've got one spot between my garage and my dining room where I get 2 bars. Anywhere else in my house, it's potentially 1. So we live in spots in the community where it may not always be a full 5-bar place. And then think about our folks on Highway 20. If you're just out past 3 miles, you're not getting much cell service out there. So that was one of the issues that we had, and then fronting that money and making that 2-year commitment. So if we started with 10, you know, then we're committing to $200 a month for 2 years. And there was, you know, they gave you like a 4-month break for summer, but we just didn't know how we were going to pull that off. And the hotspot is about $80, and a Chromebook is about $200. So there's $280, and we're only reimbursed by $200. Okay, and I think in bigger districts, this has the potential to be huge, because if you're in an urban area, you're going to have internet service and $20 a month for unlimited data.
Right.
$20 a month for unlimited data is pretty darn great. You know, but here, if you're $20 a month for unlimited data and you live on Highway 20, it might as well be a paperweight.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the issues that we had with it, and we just didn't know, how do you take that leap of faith and say, okay, we'll do 10. If we do 10, we commit for 10 for 2 years, and that was a difficult one. So think about it as a board. If you see an opportunity where, you know, you think maybe we want to do it for 5, or it makes us nervous. It made us all nervous yesterday, thinking about it, because we live in a tricky spot as far as connectivity goes.
I just hope maybe you got a message of how bad the service is around here. Maybe he'll take that back to corporate and
Right.
be like, hey, how
Well,
come
one
we...
thing he did mention when I talked to him on the phone a couple weeks ago was that they have purchased some bandwidth from, I want to say, television stations or something that they have acquired. No. They've acquired the rights to this bandwidth somewhere. They're rolling it out in the Bay Area now, and they're going to be expanding up here eventually, but it might be a couple of years, which might expand the coverage. But yeah, I mean, it was a little. It just seemed not real feasible
Not a good
where we
fit.
are.
Well, I don't think
It's always
T-Mobile
slow.
When we first heard about
people
it,
use
you know,
it up here.
When we first heard about it, we said, get it on the board agenda, $200 per kid. We're thinking 1,800 students, that's $360,000. You know, we're going to be able to do this. And then as we started learning the details, $20 a month times 1,800,
Yeah.
2 years, you know, $280 upfront cost. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, yeah, thanks for
checking
spending the
into
time on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, that was probably time you could have done other things at ADCO.
I have to tell you, it was a very entertaining conversation. We had to tell Hari to calm her down.
Okay, so I think we'll take a 10-minute break and let people shuffle. Thank you, ladies, for sticking out with us. So we will adjourn for 10 minutes till 8:28, please. The agenda consent items. So these are usually routine, non-controversial items that are usually passed in one motion. So is there anything anyone needs to pull or has questions about?
I just had a quick question about the Williams quarterly report. I believe the county came in and gave their blessing, I guess, but then there was some highlighted.
They didn't check everything.
Right, and that's because they didn't have time or they didn't need to, or what's behind? I've never seen that before.
They didn't need to, so
Okay.
they came in and checked what they were supposed to check.
Got it.
And checked what they needed to check. And you know, poor Dana Gray, they've been in the Williams review randomly every year for the last, I want to say, 5 years. So we'll see if they randomly get chosen again next year. But they do a great job.
Okay.
Mr. Kale's a pro.
So I move to approve the consent items.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, so we have 4 action items this evening. And so the first one is on, did I miss something? No.
I usually read it, but that's okay.
Oh,
I don't know if we need to do
just
that.
elbow me. Go ahead. Diana, will you please read the consent calendar?
My one job. 9.1 warrants dated May 2nd, 2019. 9.2 is board meeting minutes, April 18, 2019. 9.3 is personnel action report. 9.4 is the Williams quarterly report. And 9.5 is P2 attendance.
Okay. All right. So the first board action item is the community eligibility provision. So we're going to have Pilar come back up, or Becky.
Pilar.
Pilar Gray, Director of Nutrition Services. It's me again. So I am looking for your approval to move forward to apply for the school district to approve for the school district to apply for community eligibility provision for this upcoming school year and into the future until we decide otherwise.
And this is kind of just a courtesy thing, right? I mean,
Because we did discuss it.
Right.
And I'm here to answer any questions if you've come up with any between what we talked about last meeting of this.
So how is this different from breakfast in the classroom? Is it going to replace breakfast in the classroom?
No. No, community eligibility provision is a way that all students at all the schools can eat for free, period, all meals. It's different than Provision 2 and how it works. Provision 2 has a different funding formula, the percentage that you get reimbursed for, than community eligibility provision. The community eligibility provision is based on your direct certification numbers. Your direct certification numbers are how we qualify kids for free and reduced meals based on participation in various programs such as CalFresh, which is food stamps, migrant education, homelessness, and Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal has been a big game changer. That's actually, I see some of your numbers went up that went last year on our free and reduced is because we can now direct certify kids. That's what I think contributed to our jump at the high school. Not that necessarily more kids were actually filling out applications, but that I was able to direct certify them through Medi-Cal. I ran both numbers for Provision 2. Provision 2, it's based on your participation in meal program from your what they call your base year. So the community eligibility provision is based on your direct certification numbers. So, but both ways, all kids eat for free. What varies is how the state reimburses you and at what rate. Running both numbers, the community eligibility provision will reimburse us at a higher rate. And so, based on the last numbers I ran, we did really good on direct certification here. We did really good, particularly at Redwood, Dana Gray, and middle school. We would be, all meals that are served would be reimbursed at 92% of them would be at the free rate, and only 8% would be at the paid rate. Now, what that means is when we sell a meal or provide a meal to a child at school on how they qualify free or reduced price or paid, Depends on how much money the state gives us. You want the most in the free range. That's where you get the most money per meal. The paid is like it's a quarter. They give you like hardly anything, 28 cents. It's pretty nominal. So 92% at free is very significant. Currently, only 72% of the kids qualify for free meals. So we'll be getting a higher percentage of the reimbursement that way, more money per meal. And at the high school and alternative ed, if we combined those two sites together, because the high school, their identified student population is pretty low. It's only 42%. We don't have as many kids being direct certified at high school as much as we don't have as many kids at high school qualifying for free and reduced meals. So, but if we pull those in with our alt ed class, our alt ed site, because you can strategically group your schools together in how you do this. You could do the whole district as one big lump, you could do each school individually, or you can group your schools. So I've been playing with the numbers. If we pull our alt ed kids in with our high school kids, that helps. Because alt ed has an identified student population percentage of 84%, high school only 42%, but if we bring those together, we'd be getting a reimbursement rate for those meals at 75% free, which is significantly higher than our existing high school free approval rate, and 25% paid. The motivation for doing community eligibility provision, as I explained in the previous board meeting, is one, you're doing a service for your community, a very, very important service for your community. Because again, the National School Lunch Program, how kids qualify for these meal programs is based on a national average. And so we have people here who do not qualify for free or reduced price meals who can't pay their PG&E bill. I mean, they're really struggling. So for them to pay for their school meals is also a struggle. So for them to be able to have their meals at school be free is a big service to our community. And the other motivation is that it's been shown that schools that do this, their participation in the school meals increases. And since we are funded by the number of meals that we sell, you always want to provide more meals. So the more meals you put out without changing your staffing, if you can do it at the same staffing level, then you're generating more income. So, and most schools have shown, I haven't heard a single school yet here yet that they said that their participation dropped or held steady. Every school I've talked to has said that their participation, simply by the fact that nobody has to dig out that $3 for lunch or the $2.50 for lunch, depending on their school, increased their participation.
So at Redwood and Dana Gray, we're providing breakfast in the classroom to anybody that wants it for free, correct?
Yes, at this time, yes, we are, and that is under provision 2.
So then we get a higher first person rate for everybody that participates in that? Would that change that at all?
It will change that, yes. If we go to community eligibility provision, provision 2 will go away. It'll replace provision 2.
So we'll get a higher reimbursement per
Yes,
person.
sir.
And then we hope that our lunch at Redwood and Dana Gray will increase in
Yes.
volume, so we get more money.
And
there.
at middle school and high school as well.
And
in
middle
Oakland.
school and same thing in middle school and high school.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm sorry, I wasn't clear about what you were asking me, but yes, it would replace provision 2. That would go away.
And you have plans on how to serve breakfast at middle school and high school? And
We would just serve it as we do now. We're not anticipating changing how we actually serve the meals. We would continue with before school breakfast and second chance breakfast at middle school and high school. So currently it's available from very early in the morning as soon as kids roll onto campus, and then their mid-morning break, kids come in and get breakfast also. So we continue to do that. The challenge from our staff is going to be how are we going to deal with the increased capacity?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's that careful what you wish for, but we're game to give it a try and see how this works. I'm a little concerned about storage and refrigeration issues, but we don't know until we don't. I mean,
Right.
we just got to give it a shot. It's my thought, and see how it works out. And my staff has been working on revising their menus for next year to try to simplify production, particularly at middle school and high school, because I'm predicting that we'll probably see the greatest increase at middle school, because that's the one I think where we have the most room for growth, other than high school, but we have the open campus, right? So I'm predicting that we'll probably experience the most growth there, and we're also going to be producing meals for our charter school out of middle school next year. So I'm gonna have to be doing some shuffling of staff So consequently, we're looking at changing our menus, particularly at the high school, because our participation is lower. So to scale back a little bit, simplify a little bit, still keep it good, but a little simpler. You know, we've been spending the year really targeting what do the kids want most, what are their favorite meals, and let's get it down to that.
Good.
So that hopefully our nutrition staff can survive the change and do it with the current staffing. That's the goal, is to be able to pull it off without having to increase labor.
Scott's a chef.
All right.
He was good at flipping burgers.
Yeah, so much barbecue there. Yeah.
But I don't know if at the high school, I know we talked about trying to make it easy to go. Like even though it's open campus at lunch, they can just hop in line real quick, grab something.
That is currently what we do. I mean, everything at the high school is grab and go. It all is. It's all packaged to go. It's just a matter of getting them to tolerate a line. You know, I mean, it's a challenge thing because it's, you know, it's not a very long line and it's a very efficient line and they move very quickly. But the nature of youth is that they're impatient and they want to go. You know, I've mentioned before, I have a vision that sometime in the future I would love to have grab and go carts, you know, on the way out, but that requires a person to be at that cart. So staffing. So, but that's a goal we have in mind, and if we find that participation grows enough that we can afford the extra staffing to do that, well, fabulous, let's do it. At this point, we can't afford that growth. So, yeah.
Well, do the kids have to still put in their number if we go to the CEP, or can you just do a count as they go
They
by?
will still be coming through the point of sale line.
But they don't have to enter their number?
We will still be having them enter their numbers. You do not have to. You can do a clicker count. However, there's a lot of compliance issues around doing a clicker count that puts you at risk of being non-compliant with the National School Lunch Program, and they do review us regularly. We're under review this year. They come in and they stand there and they watch what we do. And there's a lot of room for error there, because how do you say that you haven't counted the same student twice? You're not allowed to do that. How do you know someone didn't accidentally click it twice?
Right.
I had the conversation with our state reviewer while she was on site here last month, and she says they're finding a tremendous amount of error with the clicker counts. And when you get an error on your meal counts, they pull your money. They pull your reimbursement funds. So you don't want to go there. So my thought at this point is we keep them doing what they're used to doing. They're accustomed to it. It's an efficient system. And then if we find that this was a mistake and we have to go back, that's one less thing we have to retrain. And it keeps us compliant, and that's very, very important, because there's just too much riding on that unduplicated counts at your meal service. That we can get some very big trouble on that.
Now, are the kids able to eat at breakfast and second chance breakfast, or is it going to be one?
It's one or the other, which is the other reason why we need to have that counts, the computer system. So how do we know they came before school and they came getting a break? We can't give a reimbursable meal to a student twice.
Now, can a kid have an account with money on it and get a second breakfast?
Yes. Yes, we will still have sales for a la carte items, extra items, and for those that just, you know, adults will still be, you know, purchasing. So we'll still have a whole cash system in place. It just won't be utilized as much. And it's going to greatly reduce our collection efforts.
Yeah.
Which is great, because, I mean, the collection efforts are a moot point anyway with all the laws that are in place now. You know, we can never deny a child a meal, any child, regardless. We have no teeth to collect the money. We're required by law to write it off at the end of the year if people don't pay. So, I mean, it's... they kind of got our hands tied on the whole money collection. And we spend a lot of administrative effort trying to collect the monies as well.
Very good.
And so I just want to hit on a key point. Our employees will still have to pay for their meals. This is
Yes, they will.
It's
only for the students.
So I will still be turning in my payment.
Thank you. Yeah.
And one of the things that Blair and I talked about is trying to figure out a way to do lunch counts so they're not so public, you know. But I'm nervous about lunch counts.
Yeah, we don't know what to expect.
Right. I mean,
You mean advanced lunch counts?
Well, for instance, at the high school, you serve, 100 meals at lunch?
100 to 125 typically.
Okay. We have 510 kids at the high school. And now you say, okay, lunch is free for any student. Okay.
They may come.
I don't care who you are.
They may
You're
come.
free.
If you
It
build
is
it, they
a
will come.
motivator.
Right.
So how do we the first couple of weeks or for the first couple of months, or, you know, that's something that she and her staff are going to have to figure out, because if they're used to making serving 100 meals and now it goes to 200, you can't have 200 kids in line and half of them not getting fed. So that's kind of the conversation. And then what capacity are poor lunch workers going to be in for? So,
right.
But I agree with Pilar. I think we need to give it a go. We need to see where we're at and you know, how to bring in those lunch counts. And I was thinking about this because Anna is everything about Google Forms. You know, maybe there's a Google Form that we can do daily.
Aries.
Right.
But can the kids log into Aries and do their own lunch count?
No. But if the teachers can do it during homeroom.
Yeah, you do.
I thought it would be an advisory question.
I'm just thinking about the kids raising their hand, you know.
The old popsicle stick approach.
Yeah.
Well, we do it on barbecue days. It works out fine.
That's true.
Yeah, and so, because that's what we do at the elementaries, is the teachers in the morning, who's having lunch today? They raise their hands, and there's a field in Aries where the same place where the teacher does their attendance, that they can input the meal count for that day. So we get meal counts at the elementaries already, which is wonderful because that really helps us reduce waste. We can estimate a lot closer. The middle school and high school particularly, is a moving target. We were just blown away. Today was pizza day, and we don't know where all the kids went. We had so much leftover pizza. It's like, what? It's pizza day. Where did they go? So it would be really helpful to, for at least that first, few months of school, to get everyone's assistance and just, getting the kids to give us a clue. And we'll just have a lot of supply on hand. And
maybe you could do the backwards, if there's a backwards remind where they could text in.
Well, or just at the advisory level, just get them mindset to think, hey, if campus were to offer free food, would you go? And do the one question in advisory, and at least kind of get their mindset like, hey, would I? Let's consider it, and then bring it on where they're kind of thinking, oh, I'll just, instead of going to that parking lot, I'll go to this one so I can catch it, and then we'll go to Todd's point.
Well, there will be kids that do both.
Right.
They'll grab the free lunch and they'll still go downtown.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Sure,
They'll
why
be
not?
efficient.
Yeah.
We'd love to serve them.
growing. Yeah.
So.
Oh, right.
So I think this is going to do a couple of things. I agree with Pilar that if we do this, I think the sales at the middle school are going to go through the roof. Because, especially with breakfast, I think that's an easy one. I think breakfast at both schools will easily go up because if you're not paying for it, and I'm sure after the flood of students go through, the staff is going to have ideas on how to make the line be quicker and better, or the staff is pretty darn great about recognizing what the need is and then finding a solution for it. So it may mean some changes in the kitchens over the next couple of months or the first couple of months of school, but I think the potential here for increased revenue, I think, is huge. Especially if we go 92%. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So it just means that every meal that goes through, if we served 200 meals that day, 92% of those meals, or 184 of those meals, are going to be reimbursed at a greater rate, at the free rate. That's a pretty big deal because we're not 92% eligible right now. So we brought this back to you after a discussion just so that we could be very clear on moving forward what the board's direction is on this, and then we get to begin how to publicize this and how we're going to roll it out and getting things ready for the start of the year. So that's why this is back to you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I think my first board meeting, this was nutritional services was a huge topic and how to save money, and it's great that, we talked about increasing revenue and you brought us this proposal, and so I don't know if we can, but I'd love to make a motion to move forward with this if we can.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
President Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar.
You've been visiting us frequently. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your staff for the barbecue at Dana Gray. I think
that was fun.
it really,
Thanks for flipping burgers.
we had a couple glitches, but
Mr. Tishman, too.
I think it went pretty well. And the kids, even the last kid in the line was still smiling, even though it was a little bit of a wait. Yep.
We got a hot, fresh burger.
Right.
They did. Okay. So 10.2, the adoption of the new science books at the high school.
So I don't know if any of you have had a chance to look at the books. They're pretty darn great.
They're nice.
They're NGSS compliant, which is the next generation science standards. The teachers are excited about it. They have ELD standards in them and ELD resources. There's an electronic component to it. It was interesting. One of the science teachers passed along to her principal that she went paperless, completely paperless for the first semester because they were piloting it. And she said, there's a need for paper. There's a need for kids to write things down versus then clicking their way through things. And so that was interesting to hear
I've been saying
that.
that for years.
I know.
Good job, Jerry.
Here's my calendar.
And there is something to be said about a balance, a balance. So she really did try to go, she did go paperless for one whole semester.
That's amazing.
But she saw better learning once the paper was introduced back in. So just putting that out there, we are still always going to endeavor to save as many resources as possible. I'm excited about these new biology books. They match the physical science books. Like I said, NGSS compliant, great online components and resources, great, just great resources altogether. It's about $20,000 for the adoption, which is about right. Usually when we get one set of books for a grade level, it's about $20,000. When we looked at the middle school science books, it was $60,000, and everybody gasped. Well, $20,000 for sixth grade, $20,000 for seventh grade, $20,000 for eighth grade. And where is this money coming from? It is coming from our restricted lottery textbook money that can only be used for textbooks. So it's not like we are taking it from something else. So Wendy has been squirreling away the textbook money as much as possible. She and I have had the conversation from right at the beginning of my time as a superintendent about making sure that we are very methodical in adopting books, that we do a little bit every year so that we don't come down to, hey, we're going to adopt K-12, because that has the potential to be such a huge investment. So we're trying to be good about getting science out of the way, getting social studies out of the way. So the next step next year is we're going to be looking at some type of social studies for the middle school because we haven't done that yet. And then what we need to do for the high school. And I think for the high school, we're almost completely done with social studies. So that's kind of the next stages. And then once we get through that, we're going to start looking at science K-5. That will be a big purchase. I'm just telling all of you to just buckle up and hold on. And then the same thing if we do a K-5 social studies. And I don't know if it'll be like a 3-5 social studies or a K-5 social studies. I'm not sure how it works. There's some of the social studies standards integrated in the ELA adoption, but a formal social studies adoption and a formal science adoption is going to hit us hard. So if we can do these small incremental ones and just keep squirreling away the rest of the textbook money, then we'll have enough to take care of the big ones when they come down.
That's a great book.
Yes, sir.
So usually we have more than one teacher fill out these forms.
And I saw the board comments about that. They really did fill them out together. They did it during an ER time, and in truth, they were thinking about the paper because they had all talked about it, and they said, okay, well, what do we rate this? So
this
instead,
is a collaborative.
It really was.
And I
So-
gathered that because the bottom says we, but they should have all signed it. They should have all
Oh,
signed
but,
this
you
so
know,
we
can
knew.
take it back and have them all sign
Well,
it.
or just the public know that it wasn't one person sitting in a room and
Right.
and just utilizing, that it was really a collaborative effort just for the public, because I mean that's what the cover page says.
Probably the other part was, usually you see these and you've got two or more textbooks, and the one they choose is like all 4s and 5s. So this one was one of the more lukewarm evaluations of a textbook. So I was kind of like, are we settling for something? But it's good to hear that your comments on it, Becky, that make me feel better about it.
I think they arm wrestled with a lot of what they were seeing, and also you're talking about a pretty high-powered group. They have incredibly high standards, so when I looked at it and some of the components that got 3s, I know who the teachers are. I'm like, oh, that's not a bad score.
And then the other thing that came in the email is that Mrs. Farrell is teaching with that book now, and
she's piloting it.
Right, so they know the publisher, so I think they were.
And
They
it goes
like the
along with
layout.
the physical science book, so the kids are used to the way it.
Right, that's what she's teaching this year, right?
Well, bio comes first.
Oh, okay, right.
So that, yes, she's using the publisher for physical science, so. The online resources are huge, and for us to be NGSS compliant is a big deal. I was really impressed with the resources that are on display at the district office. It's impressive.
Well, I'm happy that they're excited to use, because it's a lot of work to go to a new textbook, so that's wonderful. So I move to approve 10.2, adoption of new science books.
I second.
Okay, no public. Any discussion?
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And President Babcock?
Yes. Okay, 10.3 is our board policies that we went through one by one last month. And I don't think we cleared up everything with options, right?
I think so.
We were leaving everything in, I think, is what we ended up deciding, right? Okay.
And I think the only thing was that something happened, the suicide prevention needed to be on the cards. I guess that got to the site,
On the
high
back
school.
of the ASB cards.
That was
Right.
one of the things that.
And then I had asked, it's not that important, but just if the counselors and Mary Iverson had looked at all that stuff. The suicide prevention, just to make sure that it seems to be pretty.
I know the counselors have.
Okay.
I didn't get to touch base with Mary. I reviewed those board policies again one more time, and the majority of like the things with the LCAP and the site plans and the school site councils, we're doing it, and we've been doing it. So.
Or they're telling us this is the new name. It's a school plan, not a single, site plan.
Any questions for? Okay.
A motion? I make a motion to approve action item 10.3, board policy and administrative regulation updates.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Anna?
President Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
All right, 10.4, memorandum of understanding between FBUSD and MCRPD.
So I think I'm going to ask you to table this, and let me explain why. On Tuesday, after this was published on Monday, Dan Kais had sent me an email and said his board has not approved this MOU yet.
I'm sorry?
The MCRPD board has not approved this MOU. Pardon?
That's a big deal.
So,
Yeah.
so he just asked if we would wait on it. So we can do one of two things. You can look at it and say that you'll approve it pending the MCRPD board. I would prefer to just wait because their meeting is the 15th and our next meeting is the 16th. And I know it's a special meeting, but we can approve this on the 16th after they've approved it, and I think it would just be more copacetic.
Now this, from reading it, it's my understanding that this is what we're currently doing, right? There
Yes.
was nothing new.
Nothing
Okay.
changed.
But there were some tweaks in it because just changing little language so that it was reflective of what we were doing.
Okay.
It was nothing major, it was pretty straightforward, but he just requested,
No, that's fine. that was my only question
yeah,
regarding
no,
it.
it's pretty straightforward. I don't anticipate that there's gonna be a problem with his board, but just because they are, they are kind of the I don't know if the hosting agent is correct, but
Laboring or of the.
they're the employer for our kudos folks, so it just makes more sense that they see it first.
So I know we had conversations about the budget implications of this program. This MOU doesn't inhibit us from making any budget changes down the road we need to make or anything?
No.
Or
and just,
cure.
And just so you know, Wendy and I met with Dan Kaiser, Monique Wooden, and Kim McLaughlin, who is one of the coordinators, Joanne Farrell, to just make sure that we were all on the same page with staffing, and we've been working with Bessie Glossinger from the county to kind of keep our lanes all lined up so that we know how much Dana Gray brings in, Redwood Middle School, and it's really those three programs. I'm confident that we're going to be closer to budget this year than we ever have. And then the goal is next year, we're going to be closer to budget again. The recommendation for next year, moving into the Kudos program, is we're going to keep Kudos at the specific sites, so we're not going to be moving like we talked about. So Redwood will be at Redwood, Dana Gray will be at Dana Gray, Middle School will be at Middle School. We're going to move to a super snack instead of a separate program that will, it actually, I think, is going to be better for kids who ride the bus and go home, because they'll have some food to take with them. It's a little hard to take minestrone soup, even though minestrone soup is kind of better than some string cheese and raisins. But that's going to help us eliminate cost. We won't need 2 people in the kitchens. We talked to Pilar about this at length, so that's a good thing. We are going to work with the Kudos director to make sure that the staffing at each site is tighter and a little bit more focused on trying to maintain those ratios.
Are we okay to go this?
All we're talking about is program next year. This is not about the
Okay.
MOU. So I'm just talking to you about what the program is going to look like.
I know, but it's not, is that considered on the agenda?
Oh.
Right,
Just
that was
asking.
just he was asking a question about if this MOU was going to reduce or
Right.
cure some of
But
our
now we're kind of going-
our
No,
budget. So that, I guess that's kind of it then. Okay, so that I guess that's all we can
Okay,
say.
there's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm not trying, I mean, I
No,
would love to
thank
hear
you.
about this, but I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm supposed to.
that got up, right,
this
right.
one.
That was a
Because
good,
the
that was a
MOU
good
about the
question.
Kudos program, I
Right,
think
Right.
it's probably
It was a
okay, but
very good
Right.
question, but then, yeah, you wanted to
'Cause
explain
one
why.
time I let somebody go way off onto, trying to do my job here.
Good job.
Okay. Okay, so do we need to have an
Table
official
it.
request to table that?
I just don't think we
Somebody,
should action.
or us to agree to that, I guess?
Yeah, we all agree.
Okay. All right, so we are going to put that onto the special agenda.
On
We
the
will not be
16th.
having agenda setting, so I just want to make sure Anna knows what goes on that. Okay. All righty. Okay. Information discussion, the parent advisory committees. So I had, we had talked about this last meeting, but we brought it up again at agenda setting that we would like to discuss to see if we would like to move forward with a safety committee and or a budget and LCAP committee.
This is going to require parent participation as well?
Yes.
That's going to be difficult, probably.
Well, I think if we do some of these during the day and not in the evening, I actually think that we might get more participation. If you've ever seen Linda Reese's, Coffee with the Principal, there's quite a few people there.
That are available.
And even our DLAC meeting, I walked into the DLAC meeting and there were, my goodness, there were 10 mamas there, 8 or 10. It was pretty impressive. So I think if we shift some of this to the morning time, we might actually.
When kids are in school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's a big deal. It's difficult to have meetings this late at night because right now, if you have little ones, who's putting them to bed?
Or
who's giving them a bath?
Right, or after school. I mean, it's
Right.
hard too. So I like that idea because you're getting a different set of eyes to look at some and making some decisions.
And if we keep them very scheduled, like if we're going to have a safety meeting twice a year, people can plan for that. If we're going to have a parent advisory committee for our LCAP planning and budget, the big budget piece we could do at night when you're all available, but we could make it a committee where 2 of you come and we can talk about, interact with the community to try and get some of those fiscal ideas out on the table and talk about priorities. So if you're going to go this route, we now have new board language that you just approved about parent advisory committees. But I would like to see some of this happen during the day. I think we're going to get some more participation.
Part of it at Redwood with the Coffee with the Principal is that they're dropping their kids off anyway, so they've arranged to take an hour and a half off of work, and the morning works out great. She always gets a good turnout.
One of the things, I did some research on other school safety committees, and I have to say that they all meet much
A lot.
more often.
I was shocked too. I looked
There
too.
was one that I found, which was kind of interesting, that it met in May, June, July, and September, and then not during, which May's super crazy in our district, but I thought that was interesting that they met kind of not in the school
The
year,
heart.
so it's adding another meeting to people's calendars. But then everybody else was once a month. It was.
I was actually very surprised, and everyone handled it in a different way. I mean, some had the safety with the parent advisory. It was very unique. 'Cause there wasn't just one way people were doing it, but I was shocked how many times they visited. But with us, maybe we'd just start on the low and increase it to
And
see
they
what the
might
work,
decide,
but because you really need to have your priorities in place. Like that first, we need to know what's the goal and, and keep it really focused. Because maybe if you had that, you wouldn't need the 8 meetings.
Well, my concern with and I kind of wrote some things looking at, is that not only do we want to focus, which is happening from the wellness committee too, is that safe and healthy work environment for our employees, but then to also review and evaluate reports from the insurance people and or events. Like we had 2 kind of, not emergencies, but instances where things were different, with the power outage, and then there was the thing right around that time. There's 2 things that happened that kind of needed exit strategies and stuff. But anyway,
yeah.
So we could have at that time, I would have appreciated observing as a parent and a board member, kind of debriefing how that really went, because signing out and things were kind of, and then also increasing knowledge and awareness for, to prevent. So anyway, that's kind of my goals, is thinking of why, not just doing it to sign another piece of paper, but to really look at making things better and making our employees and our students safe.
Well, I love the idea of doing a parent advisory committee, especially when it comes to the LCAP and the budget, because I don't feel like we have enough people participating in that discussion. And if it was just 2 board members instead of the full 5, if it was truly a committee and it was a little bit less formal, we might get people talking a little bit more and really being able to have a very robust conversation about where the priorities are. And it's tough to do that when it's 9 o'clock at night. How late do you take that
Well,
discussion?
and at a table with a podium,
Right.
it's not very.
Formality.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that if you had 4 meetings for the parent advisory, that we could all circuit in. Like we could just choose a meeting that we can, so that we all are kind of in on that, but we aren't going to every meeting, just
Right.
because I know it's hard when there's only 2 attending every one, and you lose some of the flavor when it gets brought back.
And I wouldn't even mind seeing that hooked up with the safety committee. So from 8:30 to 9:30, we're doing the safety meeting. From 9:30 to 10:30, we're doing the parent advisory committee, or something, of the like, so that they could be backed up together and it's the same day and it's one time. We could try it. If it doesn't work, then we do it 2 different days. But I think there are things that we can
Be
do.
efficient.
So.
Unless I'm just being the devil's advocate, but I'm thinking if we want to include more parents, if you had them on different
days,
then you
yeah.
would get, maybe there's a group of parents that's super passionate about the safety. And then there's another group that's super passionate about, so then they could change out. I mean, it doesn't
Themselves.
prevent them from
They
leaving
could-
at 9:30 and a no group coming in.
Right.
But
Right.
Anyway, just a thought that
Well, let
we
them
could
know.
include more.
We'll let them know that it
different-
can be flexible. You don't have to stay for the LCAP and budget because your eyes glaze over, but stay for the safety. I mean, you don't have to be punished. Like you can leave and choose your topic.
Okay, so we're gonna figure to start, I mean, do we want to try to have an LCAP one, tie that into something we're doing now, or no? Just wait until?
So we are in the 3rd year of our LCAP multi-year plan. I think next year would be the perfect year to start talking about it, because it's going to start a new 3-year plan.
Okay.
So.
That makes sense.
And I envision it to be under that parent advisory, so that you'd have a safety committee, and then I guess parent advisory's on top, and then you'd have these topics that you'd bring to them. So it could be LCAP, it could be budget, it could be safety. But most schools have their own safety committee and take it on to include employee issues along with student safety. And then the parent advisory is kind of, that's where it was really many different issues and topics were under that. So you really maybe need 2 new committees or maybe just 1. I don't know. But I think it's wise. So it's about your master calendar, because you're going to have to be involved.
Well, I think what we need
Trying
to
to
do
envision.
is if we're going to decide to look at it for next year, that we pick some times in perpetuity. We know
I
that
do.
the board meeting is the second Thursday of the month, right? So do we say, okay, we're going to do the safety meeting the first Monday of the month? Or is Monday a bad time because of, Labor Day and where all the holidays go? Is it the first Tuesday of the month? But I think we pick a couple of things in perpetuity.
How about if we call it a community advisory committee?
Oh, yeah.
Then
Right.
a Rotary
Yes.
member
Oh,
can
you're
come.
right.
And
I've
then,
we never
because I
saw
kind of
that.
like that now that you're saying that group can do a whole kind of thing. Like
All
they could
topics.
have done this budget survey. They could have done,
Mhm.
talked about breakfast in the classroom. They could have, kind of like your roundtable is with the union.
Mhm.
So whatever the hot topic is at the time,
Or
you could
the
get this
input
group
you
of
need.
people to talk about it. And then maybe leave safety as the 2 meetings a year and then do this 4 times a year.
Right. You could even bring the textbook in for them to
Yeah.
view.
Yeah.
Get input. So it might be a nice.
And if it doesn't work?
And just for safety, we've been fortunate that Barry and I have been able to meet with the fire chief and the police chief over the last couple of years. And if I could just work with them and work with all of you and say, let's form a safety committee that meets every May or every June, however we want to do it. And it may not be a bad idea that we start that in July, because we're not in school, we don't have kids here, we can walk the campuses, we can look
Right.
at things and kind of make those big plans for the start of the school year.
Smart.
It was great when Ari was able to meet with with
Chief
the
of
police
police.
department and just kind of get that lay of the land. So I'd say, why don't we shoot for a July safety meeting? We'll advertise it out, if that sounds good to you. I will invite the police chief, the fire chief, and we can get other officers and other fire department members there. We can get the administrators there, and just kind of look at the safety plans all together and talk about big picture things and what we need to do and coming up with backups.
That's a great idea.
If I'd like to sit in on that, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I will get the July safety meeting to happen, and if more of you want to come, it'll turn into a special meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And we'll
To
go
see
from
the
there.
date.
But
I'm okay with not doing it. I'm confident because Mary and I have talked a lot about it. So Mary knows but I really had some concerns with the way that whole day went with the kids. Not that I think anything went wrong, but as the board president, I'm standing there looking around thinking, oh my God, if this goes wrong, if that goes wrong, it's like liability, So anyway,
Oh, no,
that's
we were in
why.
the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, all the kids went home and everything was great and the staff was great. They were, at Dana Gray, they were great. It was just a few little things that nobody thinks about till it's happening.
Right.
Okay, which brings another idea that I'll bring it up next month. It's late.
Well,
Our
you can
summer workshop then.
Yeah, we'll just briefly say.
Yeah, after Diana put in all those documents into our, I forget what you called it, but anyway.
drive?
Anyway.
The resource
From her,
folder.
her resource folder. I was thinking it might be a good idea to, in July, when we're not doing other stuff, just do an informal workshop that the ladies that just finished MIG, and then Jerry and I can bring our old MIG stuff and kind of bring Scott what we can without, him going, but then still review for us, for Jerry and I to remember, and just kind of that whole thing about looping back when you do the PD, you go and you spend all this money and then,
Right.
if we come back
Need
around
to
to it.
share
So
out.
anyway, it wouldn't be at a meeting where we tried to do that, where I was pushing for that to happen, but, if we could just do a 9 o'clock on a Wednesday or something for a couple hours and.
Right.
Might be a good way to lead into setting priorities.
Yeah.
Right. No, just having some good discussion.
Yeah. So anyway.
In summer.
I
Thank you.
thought of that idea too.
And that would have to be a special meeting
Yes, it would.
Yes.
Yes,
It'd
that
be a-
needs an agenda. But we can call it a workshop. Yeah. Okay.
So will you send out one of those polls about the different?
Would you like me to send out a poll for a special?
Are we ready for that?
workshop in July?
That's
Doodle?
far. Sure.
We can
Because
try.
I don't go home until the 16th, so yeah.
You probably don't need to be there. Or do you want to be there?
Heck yeah, it's just more fun.
I'll bring the licorice.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Wait a second.
Licorice.
The red vine.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So just a reminder that, or anything else for advanced planning or?
I wanted to mention this. I think it's the city is having their farmers market table again, and they're having housing discussion. Because I know that they're doing grants. And so I know at agenda setting, Becky put me on the spot and said, well, what can we do with, I said, let's work with the city. I've been watching and, doing these things. And I know there's something out there. And this is totally probably in left field, but I did watch a webinar about teacher shortage and the housing. And we do have an issue here, but it's nothing to the level of in the Bay Area where they really can afford it. I mean, our rents are very high, but it's a whole different game down there because they're still getting, especially if they're not basic aid, they're still getting paid kind of the same in some areas. But they actually had, a school district where they had surplus land. They had 22 acres. And so they were actually, the concept of the school they talked about at MIG, they actually built their new, their teachers' housing, like apartments, and they were able to do that, and it worked. And that was kind of a good thing about keeping the rents low and shortage. But I was just wondering, wouldn't it be fabulous if you could work with the city and somehow we get couple vouchers that we always can say our new teachers coming into town that they can stay at this lodging just until they get the feel of the land and go, hate this place, I'm out of here in a year. Or they'll say, you know what, I'd really like to be able to find something, and they have a year to not have that stress of trying to come into town. And so I don't know how that would work, but I know that there are districts that are doing it, and you can go on to EdSource and listen to this little debate and analysis of unaffordable housing and teacher shortages. And I just thought, well, that might be a nice time for us to wander down and just see if that's, I have no clue, but I can't remember if it was Daly City. They're working with their city, possibly, and some sort of grant collaboration. And I know that we're totally not really, it's probably not feasible for us, but it doesn't hurt to kind of say, hey, we're really having teacher shortages, and part of it is housing, and obviously our pay scale. There's so many different issues, but it wouldn't hurt to just say, hey, how can we help you and you can help us, and have that discussion. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so we have a very long list of reminders. Has anybody been checking the calendar?
Yep.
Yes, we're all.
So obviously we're all at all the graduations, but.
I have a little issue with one of the graduations, oddly. And I can skip it, but my granddaughter is having her preschool graduation at the same time as Alt-Ed.
They're at night this year?
5 o'clock.
They're usually during the day.
I know, it's crazy.
Oh, because okay, yeah.
Well,
It's
she's
not
at
the district.
not Casper, but the Children's Garden.
Okay, yeah. Well, Mary, I would think that you're excused from that.
Nice.
You've been to a lot of Alt-Ed
Sneak in.
graduations. We'll give you credit for
I
those.
never miss them. That's just like, of all times, my daughter's there.
Do we play a role at the graduations, or we just go?
You're introduced.
Okay.
I could get
Yeah,
introduced.
high school
in
awards
one
night, that's at Dana Gray, right?
Yeah, I'm going to that.
I think we're all signed up for that.
For what?
Yeah.
For
High
awards
school
night.
awards night at Dana Gray next
And I will, because middle
Yep.
school open house is the same night as scholarship night, so I'll be there as soon as possible.
Right.
Because they kind of
They're
they
right.
overlap a little bit.
Yes.
But they're not the exact same time, right?
But they end
Well,
at the
it's
same.
supposed to
One
be-
ends at the same
yeah.
time that the other
Right.
begins. So
Yeah.
we are
And
lucky.
depending on where I get to park at middle school.
We'll park
Right.
heading south.
Yeah, but just the walk to my car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I'm super excited about the graduations. It's really fun to see the students and all the staff's efforts. It's really a exciting day for them.
Yep.
All right, and we're here the 16th and the 20th.
9th.
29th.
Typo.
Oh.
And just a reminder, I won't be here on the 29th.
Oh, so speaking of that, we need, not speaking of, but speaking of people being, are we gonna pick up, the evaluation on the
16th?
16th?
That'd be great.
Okay, so do we wanna start at 5?
Yeah, it gives us an hour.
Uh-huh. Okay. Hannah, can you add that to the, thank you. Okay. All right, if there are no more items, I ask for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
I second.
Okay.
You said I second.
Oh, I can't
I
do that.
I did the wow.